his heirs and successors according to law. So help me God.
It's happened before, but it is nonetheless still rather extraordinary that somebody who was only elected or officially sworn in as an MP less than 24 hours ago, in 3 weeks' time, is going to be running the country.
Yes, I think it is rather extraordinary. I think the issue isn't whether someone like that should automatically have to hold a general election. If Andy Burnham wants to introduce major changes to our constitution, he's talked about overhauling the House of Lords. He's also talked about overhauling our electoral system, bringing in some form of PR. I think if he wants to do any of those things, he needs a mandate from the public to do them. To try and do them without calling an election, I think, would be a constitutional outrage.
I've got an interesting tweet. There's always a tweet, Julia.
Yep.
If I can just read this out to you from Andy Burnham 3 years ago. We need to start demanding a general election at the end of this Tory leadership election. Well, well, well. That was Andy Burnham actually 4 years ago in 2022. So we're saying stick by your word, be consistent, Andy, and when you're Prime Minister, call a general election.
The battle is really on, though, for number 11. Who's going to be the Chancellor? Ed Miliband, don't forget, has played an integral key role in this coup, and it is a coup because no one apart from 25,000 good people of Makerfield have voted for this guy. Yeah. So he's played a pretty integral role in undermining Keir Starmer. Keir Starmer and Ed Miliband aren't really speaking. He's going to want a big reward. But, he is, probably the most left-wing person in the government, and he will spook the markets.
Lou Hay, I mean, the reality is, look, she served her time. She was cast out of government. The reality is, as you said, she has been central to his campaign. She was central to his campaign in Makerfield. More broadly, she's been central to his campaign to enter Downing Street. He owes her, and she will definitely get a role. I'm not.
What do you say to the people that have texted me in their droves this morning? It's a really corny sentence, but it's true. That lawbreakers can't be lawmakers, Dan?
Yeah, I mean, but the reality is she's going to get a job. So the answer is yes, they can.
I swear by Almighty God that I will be faithful and bear true allegiance to His Majesty King Charles, his heirs and successors, according to law. So help me God.
It's happened before, but it is nonetheless still rather extraordinary that somebody who was only elected or officially sworn in as an MP less than 24 hours ago, in 3 weeks' time, is going to be running the country.
Yes, I think it is rather extraordinary. I think the issue isn't whether someone like that should automatically have to hold a general election. If Andy Burnham wants to introduce major changes to our constitution, he's talked about overhauling the House of Lords. He's also talked about overhauling our electoral system, bringing in some form of PR. I think if he wants
across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hello, good morning to you. Happy Sunday, one and all. Isn't it wonderful to have each other's company on this delightful summer weekend? So much going on in the news today. There's a bumper offering of political gossip and scandal and intrigue and plotting and coups and failure to deliver on sensible policy and all the usual stuff that we can get miserable about together. So strap yourselves in, put the kettle on or load up the cafetiere. It is time for some communal catharsis. And what could be better than a Sunday in the company of two right-wing women. That's what you're looking forward to, isn't it? Because I've got Samara Gill with me for the whole 3 hours. I love the fact I'm going to be paid for the next 3 hours to hang out with my Bezza.
I know. We've really swindled the system, haven't we? I'm enjoying it.
We've hacked the system.
Yeah, we have.
So if we're looking a bit jaded, Samara and I were actually out at a party last night. We did get home by 11 o'clock.
Yes, we did. And it was for the 4th of July. I think it was a patriotic sort of for America sort of thing to do. And I'm just happy to be here in the studio with you. But yeah,
a big American 4th of July party where I didn't see a single American.
Yeah. What's going on? They're probably all in America because it's great to live there now.
That looked amazing last night. The celebration with, was it like a record level of fireworks or something?
I think so. Trump knows how to put on a show.
He knows how to put on a show.
It was fantastic. And his speech was brilliant too. I think we've got bits and pieces to play for you.
Yeah, he's got really into bashing communism at the moment, which I love. He says it's a cancer that needs to be cut out. I'm like, can we start doing emergency surgery on the UK, please?
Yeah, meanwhile, we've got someone getting coronated without a fair election in the UK and sort of putting these really left-wing policies forward. Maybe it's a warning, a veiled warning.
We've basically just become the Chinese Communist Party at this point. We don't bother with elections anymore. Nah, just, you know, decide who the next leader is amongst you, appoint some randoms to key positions and, you know, who needs a manifesto or accountability? Let's just tax everything, get everything state-controlled, zone everything for sort of extra tyranny, and off we go. There we go. We are basically China at this point. I'm just amazed that Brits aren't more up in arms about it.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's also plays to the nature of the British people. Australians are a little bit the same. There is a sort of, they won't fight too much until it really, really does get to, you know, gets to their front door. And then it's too late. That's what they say about things like communism and fascism. And I know that, happy Sunday, everyone.
Hey!
But I think it is interesting because if you were to tell an American what is going on here, they would just, their jaw would be on the floor.
Well, if this was happening in another country, right? If we were watching in the Middle East or Africa or somewhere in the Americas, there being this sort of strange transition of power to someone who wasn't even elected to Parliament, who is now going to tax everything, state control everything, no recourse to the general public, we'd be, I don't know, reporting it to the UN or something as a breach of, like, you know, human rights, civic rights. The only people who are really pushing on the general election now, other than little old me, I shout it every 5 seconds, is the Daily Mail. So thank you, Daily Mail, for leading the charge on this one, because it is absolutely abhorrent. I don't know why we're not marching through the streets crying bloody murder. I really don't. Instead, all the focus today is on Nigel Farage. The Times are really running big on this. There's been a big investigation into things that he has allegedly received from a man called George Cottrell, known in the inner circles of Reform UK as Posh George. Now, George, I know George. George is an interesting character. But George infamously was arrested in America, was in prison for 6 months for essentially blackmailing the FBI.
But he didn't know he was.
Yeah, exactly. Everyone knows this. But, you know, he was using the dark web, offering to launder money for criminals, and then the FBI were posing undercover, and he started, what he was doing was essentially blackmailing what he thought were the criminals, saying, oh, I'm going to report you to the FBI, but it was the FBI. Anyway, he ends up in prison in America. He is now appealing to be pardoned. But, you know, this is sort of old news. This happened years ago. And George even had a book launch the other day, a book called How to Launder Money. I know, very on the nose. I think his book launch was at Raffles. He's a character, you know?
He is.
But the question is this, you know, he has been apparently allowing Nigel to stay in or use a rented property near Buckingham Palace, which used to belong to Nick Candy, now apparently belongs to George Cottrell, and has offered Nigel use of this house in central London. Apparently, before Nigel came back into politics, George was paying for security and, you know, a sort of skeleton social media team. And I'm sort of sitting here going, I don't get why this is a problem.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, let's look at the actual sort of findings. So the key findings are that Farage failed to declare Cottrell's support upon arriving in Parliament. He made a single report of £9,253 for travel and accommodation to attend an event in Belgium, and then that was divulged into nothing, and it appears to be a breach of parliamentary rules. So what we're talking about kind of smallish numbers here. It also says, as you said, Cottrell recruited and paid staff to transform Farage's Farage's social media presence in the run-up to the 2024 general election. So that included Jack Anderton, 25-year-old right-wing activist from Liverpool, who kind of does or did a lot of Farage's social media. And they are grasping at straws here a little bit. This is all pre-election.
It feels lawfare-ish. I'll tell you what it is. It is, I know what's going on here. I do. It is straight from the Conservative playbook. When they decided they didn't want Boris Johnson, they threw everything at the system to try and oust him. You know, the whole, well, he was having parties in 10 Downing Street during lockdown. I couldn't give two hoots. I didn't care that Boris Johnson, 1 minute was in an office, and then it turned 5 o'clock and someone gave him a glass of Prosecco because it was his birthday. I don't care. I could not be exercised by that. I was slightly exercised by the fact they were taking a little wheelie suitcase down the local Tesco's and filling it up with booze. I thought, well, that's not really how, you know, the head of government...
The Queen was mourning her dead husband.
That was a little bit, a bit much. But, you know, the thing is with this is it doesn't matter what the general public feel about Nigel Farage getting £5 million for, I don't know what, apparently security. I mean, look, the way I see this, George was paying for his security when he was a presenter on GB News. He doesn't get state security. You know, security costs a lot of money. He's one of the most high-profile politicians, not just in the UK, not just in Europe, but in the world.
Yeah.
And they're always, you know, there's Starmer saying, oh, he's a Nazi, he's a fascist, he's dangerous. What do they think is going to happen to this man? He needs security. I think everybody can agree to that. So George was paying for it when he was on GB News. Then he comes back to stand in Parliament and they say, right, we'll pay to make sure that you have full security so you can go campaigning up and down the country. I mean, so he failed to declare something. That's not good. That's sloppy. That might be a little bit maverick. Perhaps he asked advice on what should and shouldn't be declared, because I wouldn't know the system if I got elected tomorrow. It was, you know, his first time in the Commons. So there's perhaps, you know, a sloppiness there. But it doesn't matter whether the general public thinks it's appropriate or inappropriate that he received this money. All that matters is it's the Conservative Party playbook of trying to force a by-election in Clacton.
Yeah.
They are trying to oust him using lawfare.
Yes.
And, you know, the question is whether the watchdog will actually look at this and go, yes, there is a problem. Yes, we're going to serve you the maximum punishment, which is a suspension from Parliament for 10 days, which then triggers parliamentary recall, which could potentially trigger a by-election in Clacton. And I think if that happens, what they will do is their little mates in Restore Britain will have all the weight of Conservative Party campaigning behind them to try and make sure Nigel doesn't get re-elected. That is what is going on, folks, by the way. That is the play. That is the plot. That is the programme. I'm just kind of fed up with it. I mean, look, we were talking earlier in Make-Up, weren't we, about Winston Churchill. The man who stayed in the bathtub till noon was, you know, pretty much, you know, down a bottle of champagne by 1 in the afternoon, was ferociously rude to his staff, probably a bit of a bully and a sexist. When he went to America during Prohibition, he actually had to have, like, a doctor's prescription for alcohol. But was he one of our greatest prime ministers? Yes. I want people who will run the country not into the ground, but back to greatness.
Absolutely. No, you're completely bang on. And it's really funny how every time reform sort of starts looking like an electoral threat, this type of stuff starts coming out. Another dossier suddenly appears on someone's desk or something's leaked to the press. But, you know, the timing is almost as interesting as the story itself, because it does seem like there's been a very concerted effort to push this by-election, as you say, get Farage out, and also put psychological pressure on the man who has really, I mean, he's doing something that no politician has ever done in the entirety of Britain, which is launch a new political party and become the opposition and then become the PM. And I think that it is messy along the way. That's not to say that he really should have, obviously, you know, reported these things, and he will be investigated, and that whole thing is going on right now as we speak. You know, he's not immune to it. He's not getting away with any of it. But, you know, I think that voters will be asking a very simple question about millions have backed him. Millions have backed the mandate that he has put forward to change the country. And is this going to affect it? I think it's a good question, and I'd be very interested to know what the viewers and listeners have to say about this.
I am so fed up, because this is happening across the Western world. They really tried their best with Trump, with the lawfare, with, oh, he's not well, oh, you know, he's got medical issues, he's tired, oh, he's dangerous, oh, he said this about women. It's the same playbook. They're doing this in France with Marine Le Pen. 7th of July is her trial.
Yes.
Because, you know, she used European funds, paid some staff, and they did stuff for the domestic... Some sort of, you know, petty-fogging, jobs-worthy accusation against her, where they're trying to take her out of contention. Plan won't work because they got Jordan Bardella, who is also more popular. But I'm sorry, but are we not sick to death as voters of everything being overshadowed by these games? Constant games. Instead of trying to constantly use tricks and leaks and plots to oust the opposition, how about focus on building policies to save this blimmin' country, because we're going down the plug hole at a rate of knots. And I don't care which party. If they started doing it against Burnham, I'd be, you know, fed up with it. I just want people who will go in and get the job done, and I want democracy. I want us to be asked. I think the biggest scandal is the fact that we got some jumped-up PE teacher from the Northwest who 1 minute ago was a mayor, then decides he wants to run the country on behalf of 70 million people. Only 20,000 people cast a ballot for him. He's sitting there coming out of a 10-year programme that looks like some sort of Marxist playbook. And no one is coming to us. That is a scandal, not whether Nigel Farage, when he was presented on GB News, stayed at someone's blimmin' house.
Well, that's the thing. And this article, this investigation, I mean, it's good journalism. The Times always does good journalism, but it does really focus in on just George Cottrell. And I do think we need to separate people's friendships from who they actually are. It's not a lot about... I'm reading the whole thing. Yes, George Cottrell is, as you say, an interesting character, an interesting guy. Right. But let's separate him. He's not an MP. He's not running for government. He doesn't want anything to do with that.
Politicians not allowed friends?
Yeah, I mean, I think... I mean, it's interesting, isn't it? I just think that Nick Candy, all those other people who Farage is surrounded by, they don't have input, and I think that it's almost infantilizing Farage to think that he can't make his own decisions and, you know, essentially separate himself from these people. There isn't even evidence that he stayed really at this townhouse that they're talking about. It says that it was an open invitation. But other than that, I think I agree with you. I think it's distracting from the bigger story about what's actually going on in this country with the leader.
I'm trying to figure out where the problem is, OK, because, look, you know, Starmer stayed at Lord Alley's house, apparently, so his son could revise for GCSEs. Fine. Yeah. I'll stay at Lord Alley's house, stay at Lord Alley's house. You know, we all mocked the fact that Lord Alley was giving everyone, you know, spectacles and clothes and all the rest of it. But also, yeah, whatever. You know, wear some clothes. But he lives in Kent, Surrey.
Yes.
He's got his constituency is Clacton, where he also has a house. But he's largely going to be working in London because that is where politics happens. Well, until Andy Burnham decides to move everything to Manchester. So, you know, someone says, when you're in London, do you want to use this, you know, to have meetings or, you know, go have a break, have some lunch privately? Because it's not like he can just go sit in McDonald's. Yeah. I'm struggling to find where the problem is here. The only thing I do think they've got a big issue with, and there's another story in the papers which is quite telling today. Reform has an issue because there's clearly people inside that party who are working against the party. Yeah. There's people in there on the inside who are trying to destroy it from the inside. And here's an interesting story, OK? This has popped up in oh look, News Nigeria. This one, way. But it's actually from the Daily Mail. It's actually from the Daily Mail, but we've printed out from News Nigeria apparently. Who knew? But anyway, Kemi Badenoch has said that there is no way back for Tory defectors who left the Conservative Party. And there have been reports that some former Conservatives who defected to Reform had privately reached out to the Tories about returning. Now, I'm assuming that will be Jenrick, Kruger, that could be Braverman, could be Zahawi, but I don't know. I think I have a feeling I know what's going on here.
Yeah, I mean, so this is really interesting, isn't it? Because there was obviously that deadline that was laid out by Reform to say that if you are a Tory, this is when you need to defect, and that's it, we're not taking any other people. And I think that was a really smart political move on their part because the base was getting upset about a lot of people who seemingly destroyed the country kind of coming over and joining Reform, but they could all get behind the message. The issue is a lot of these operators do only think about themselves, and I think that that's the issue here. And I think Kemi is, to her credit, she's being quite strong on this, and she's not. I do not see her allowing people back into the party once they've defected. You don't think so?
I think this is a game. I think it's all part of a game. They can't help themselves. They can't help themselves. They love the games, they love the plots, they love the coups, and that's why our country was driven into the ground for 15 years, because the people in that party can't help themselves. They can't help themselves.
You're right.
They're just so obsessed with thinking there's some sort of character in the West Wing. How about come up with some policies, run the country effectively, do what is needed? You failed to do that for 15 years because you're playing musical chairs, playing games with our democracy. You know, the Labour Party are doing it now. What are we, 7 Prime Ministers in the last 10 years?
Yes.
And basically, out of the last 8 Prime Ministers, only 2 have been sort of essentially directly elected. Only 2 have led a party and had a general election before becoming Prime Minister. What a joke we are.
Yeah.
What a joke of a country we are. We're a joke of a country because of this nonsense. We're a joke of a country because it's all about scandal and plots and attacking someone. I just want people to govern. Is that too much to ask?
It is too much to ask, Alex. It really is. I mean, even at this weird lulled period that we've got now in between Starmer and Burnham is also something that really should be scrutinised, because Starmer's saying that he wants to stay in power so he can secure his legacy. I don't know what type of legacy he's trying to secure here, but it's something that I don't even know why we're allowing him to do that, because the country is kind of now an open goal for any sort of horrible thing that might happen. We have clearly no defence plan. We've been left out completely to bear with that. It's really irresponsible. Either have Burnham come in and start leading the country, or don't let Starmer have this weird kind of couple. I mean, I know they're on recess and he needs to get his act together. Burnham needs to actually put a plan together. But why are we allowing all this sort of mediocre leaning and leading of the country? It's really, really concerning.
We've got all these headlines about what Nigel Farage may or may not have been given, and what we don't have is any real scrutiny of this crazy transition of power to some sort of ultra-communist without recourse to the voter. That is the bigger problem. Oh, let's do some messages, shall we, folks? Good morning, Alex and Samara. What a Sunday! Doing the garden with headphones on, listening to my female right-wing dream team. Have a great one, ladies, says Dan in Suffolk. Dave in Nz, which I assume is New Zealand, a fellow Antipodean, like you. We all know by the time the next election comes around, Nigel will be responsible for the grooming gangs. Why don't they investigate Operation Hexagon, in which Burnham was heavily involved? That is a very interesting thing. There's a brilliant guy called Raja Maya who has been talking about Operation Hexagon, which is a Greater Manchester police effort to what, well, I don't really know enough about it, but seemingly to silence people, shut people up about what went on in Greater Manchester. That is the bigger scandal. Hi, Alex. Good morning. Glad you had a great night at the 4th of July celebrations. From my point of view, I want Andy Burnham to stay in post as long as possible. Why? Because I want this nation to see how bad and Marxist the left are, and I want it's great. That doesn't make sense. Anyway, I don't, Trevor. I don't want to play that. We already know how bad communism is because we're living under it. Morning, Alex. I think the patriotic Americans must be thinking, thank the Lord that we got independence 250 years ago, when they look at the state of Britain now and our pathetic, treacherous, left-wing, terrible, woke excuse for a government. Fair enough. Hey, listen, they will try and dig up as much rubbish on Nigel because they are scared of him, and reform keep going. Nigel, we're all behind you, mate, says Colin. Dan says, hi, Alex and Samara. A general election will be disastrous right now because there is a chance with a Burnham bounce, with Stewart and Farage being witch-hunted by the media, that we could lose and end up with a 5-year Burnham mandate to rise taxes to pay for quangos in devolved England. Will they or won't they call a snap election? I think a lot depends on how that Burnham bounce continues to look. If I was them, I would, for that reason.
Burnham's ruled it out, though. He said that it's not going to happen under his watch. So, yeah, I wouldn't be expecting a general election anytime soon.
Burnham liking democracy? Really? Anyway, keep your thoughts coming in if you want to have a chit-chat with Samara and I. We are poised and waiting for your calls. 0344 499 1000 is the number to dial. It's your normal network rate. You can also send us a WhatsApp on that number. Leave us a ditty, a rap, a limerick, a jingle, a poem, a song, or just an opinion. We love a good voice note. 87222 is the number if you'd like to send a text message. If you're going to do that, you've got to write the word talk before you text. Everything is your normal network rate, so we're not robbing you blind. And it's all free brilliance. So do come and join the conversation. Consider it free Sunday morning therapy. OK, we're having a little break. Back after this.
got some breaking news that has just come in. talkSPORT have announced a brand new partnership in a developing story. We hear they've created So Good Lager right in time for football's big summer. Just in, we're hearing that So Good Lager will be pouring pints across all O'Neill's pubs and some of the best sports pubs across the UK. With the big kickoff just around the corner, you can find out where to get your hands on a fresh pint of So Good Lager at talksport.com/lager.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hello and welcome back. Now, I don't often find myself saying I agree with Tony Blair, but I agree with Tony Blair. Well, it's not so much him, it's his former think tank. No, the former PM's think tank, sorry, it's not, the think tank still exists. Talking about we should not tax our way to prosperity. This is the Tony Blair Institute for Global Change has issued a warning to Andy Burnham that doing things such as increasing capital gains tax to bring it in line with income tax is precisely the wrong message at precisely the wrong time. Well, we need to know what he's going to do. Our anointed future Prime Minister. Front page of the Mail today, Burnham plots homes tax raise on middle class. This is where they were going to bring in a mansion tax for properties worth over £2 million to pay sort of top-up council tax or a surcharge. And now that's being brought down potentially to £1.5 million. And look, I'm sure a lot of you sitting there are like, really? Like, who cares? Because we don't sit in properties worth over £1 million. But the thing is, in London, now, does this apply to people if they just own the house, or is it if you rent the property? Because certainly...
Ooh, good question. They probably haven't thought of that.
Certainly when I was living in London, this is what's astonishing. I lived in a tiny little cottage that I rented, which had a main bedroom and a little back bedroom that you couldn't swing a cat in. And just little open, like a tiny little galley kitchen with units from 1981, paint peeling off the walls, black mould, you know, all the rest of it, because that's London for you. But if that property was put on the market, it was worth £1.6 million, because that is how crazy property prices are now in cities. And so, you know, what you've got to understand about this is, yes, if you live in Sunderland in a £1.6 million house, then you've done very well for yourself and you probably could afford to pay a top-up surcharge. But if you happen to have bought a property basically anywhere in London more than 10 years ago, the likelihood is that it could be worth over £1 million. Go on Rightmove, see for yourselves. This isn't a joke. And so...
There's also a lot of pensioners, you know, people who are now pensioners who purchase their places for a different cost, and now their property's worth a bunch of money, and you know, there's a lot that hasn't been considered here. And it's also similar with our tax bans. You know, the £100,000 tax band there's 8 million people that cross over that threshold now, but when it was created, it was way less. There was like 700,000 people or something. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
but we haven't actually changed it, and that's the problem.
And the idea of bringing in increasing capital gains tax in line with income tax, this idea that, you know, don't increase taxes on people who are working, but people who are owning, selling stuff and all the rest of it. So it's sort of people who buy and flip a property. I mean, look, I can see that there is potentially some room to manoeuvre there, but... It's just, I mean, the point is they're never talking about what they're going to cut, what they're going to streamline, how they're going to manage the profligate waste. Instead, it's constantly looking at how they can get their hands on more money. And what happens is people just go, well, why would I bother buying and selling a property, doing it up, selling it on, if I'm going to have to pay a load of money? So it affects movement in the housing market. It ends up dampening the economy. We have reached the top of the Laffer curve, ladies and gentlemen. We've already had something like 12,500 multi-millionaires leave London last year alone, about 11,000 the year before. And the Labour Party, yeah, fine, ha-ha, we don't need you, go. No, these people are the main tax contributors. And the more you increase taxes, the more you mess about with capital gains tax, the more people are just going to go, Britain's not worth doing business in.
Absolutely. I mean, Winston Churchill himself said you can't tax a nation into prosperity, and he was completely right with that quote. It's just astonishing how much Labour doesn't understand that. It's interesting. I mean, when Tony Blair's telling you that you're taxing too much, you've really got a problem on your hands, because this is the guy who really presided over a lot of increases in taxation. But he did know in some ways how to grow an economy. He was kind of leveraging himself off what Thatcher did. But Burnham's got this really unhealthy hatred for Thatcher, and also actually the version of Labour that Tony Blair fashioned. I mean, he worked more closely under the Gordon Brown government, if you think about it. And he also wants to kind of erase some of the... That's where the chasm is between him and Starmer. It's kind of... he wants to do away with the old Labour type of... or new Labour, which is now old Labour. Yeah, old new Labour now. And he wants to do away with all that. And he's got this very interesting, radical version of Britain, which really came across in his speech that he did this week, which was, I want everyone to basically live in a council flat. That's essentially what he was saying, and I would like everyone to stay in their hometown and work on a trade, which is totally fine. He also wants to...
Oh my God, why don't you just bring out the Stakhanov statues and, set up the collective farms?
Exactly. He wants to discourage people from going to university, which I do understand. I think it has been oversubscribed and all the fewer with degrees, etc. But I also do think China and Russia and other countries like that are laughing because they're educating everyone in STEM subjects, lifting those up. People out of poverty, and what we're doing is some weird fandangled version of what Britain could be, where everyone's working on a trade and everyone's living off the government.
I love this idea that most of our British universities, and we have some of the best universities in the world, about a quarter of the world's top 100 universities are based here. Most of them are just filled with foreign students now.
There is that.
Off you go, British people. You go down the Stalinist gulag, and we'll just invite the Chinese to come and train up in our brilliant academic institutions. It is utterly ridiculous. Let's do some messages and take a call. Alex, everyone is saying that Starmer is a lame duck PM. At the moment, the whole government is a lame duck. Most ministers will be moved around or replaced, so the civil service will not be doing anything until the dust on this mess settles. James Murray doing the rounds today is a joke. We clearly have high caliber. We clearly have such high caliber front benches. Despairingly yours, Steve. James Murray's a weird little creature, isn't he? He's my age, actually, James Murray.
Wait, is he?
He always says. I spoke to him once at the green room at News Night, and he looked like he had sort of wet himself. I was like, hi, because he used to go to school with my ex-boyfriend, and I was like, oh, you know my ex,
Oh, my goodness.
And I literally, like... I was like, calm down, I'm trying to have a conversation with you, mate.
Never have you two on together. I don't want to, one who's done proper skincare and has a good regime, and then him. Anyway.
Hi, Alex. Andy Burnham reminds me of an old boss I had. He's obsessed with his image, knows how to work people, and will throw anybody under the bus he's so proud of just to distract from the fact he's not as great as he thinks he is. I was told by somebody else who used to be very closely connected with the Labour Party. The thing is, with Andy Burnham, is he actually has no conviction, he's got no ideology, and he's apparently deeply indecisive. But he's being steered around by a load of, crazy leftist cooing women who now want 50% of all representation in Parliament to be female. Why?
Well, the funniest thing is he keeps banging on about that, but actually 46% of Labour MPs are women. So you've got equal representation, and look how that's going. I mean, you know what I mean? He's using all these really, really interesting lines to try and get, pages and things like that. But I just don't understand where he's actually going with that. They do have equal representation in the Labour Party.
Also, by the way, I don't care about this idea that we need more women in politics. I'm becoming a sexist in my old age. Yeah. I think we need fewer. Because you look at the polling, and you look at the way most women are voting is for the Green Party, which is just mental illness.
Yeah.
So do we need more people who think that we should legalise all drugs and prostitution, have open borders, and roll out the red carpet for Mohammed and all that? Like, do we really want that as a country? No.
I think it's insulting to say that we need to, but we can't hire women on merit as well. I think there needs to be a meritocracy in the Parliament. There's absolutely no ifs or buts about it. And we've had the Conservatives are the ones who have actually had female prime ministers. Labour's never even had a female leader. So I really don't think they should be trying to school everyone else on equal representation. It doesn't work like that.
Shall we speak to Barry in Newcastle? Hello, Barry. How are you doing?
I'm not from Newcastle. It's Redcar.
Oh. Oh, well, you're sort of northern, you know, it's near enough. If I were to draw, you know, sort of a big circle around the north of England, you'd just about make it in there.
Yeah, I don't know about you two, but I'm just absolutely fed up. I'm just completely sick. We're on the same cycle. Everything's going round and round. We're just hearing the same SH1T from all the politicians. I'm just sick of it. We need something to change. We need a massive, massive U-turn. And Starmer's obviously done loads of them, but we need a different U-turn. We need a better U-turn.
It feels like the same old record on repeat, doesn't it? Like you said, it's the sort of, you know, what we're hearing is, oh, the Parliamentary Standards Committee, the watchdog, political, you know, by-elections, all this, plots, blah, 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 blah. Yeah. And it's like, can we just stop having communism? Like, can we do what Donald Trump says and cut it out like it's a cancer, please?
You ask for too much.
Oh, Barry.
I'm sick of it. I'm sick of it. I'm absolutely fed up. It's like almost... You're like going to the doctors to get some antidepressants, but how do you go to the doctors to ask for antidepressants when it's the doctors that are controlling it, it's the government controlling the doctors? You just, you know. I feel sick. I just want to scream. I want to go to the window and say, I've had enough of this. I'm fed up, or whatever that phrase from Network, the film, is.
But Barry, I think you, me, Samara, everybody listening, we all feel the same way. This country is being driven over a cliff edge by constant socialism from the Conservatives, frankly speaking, from our Whitehall apparatchiks, who are basically the most left-wing human beings on planet Earth, lanyardism, from all of our public-facing institutions. We do need radical change, and we're not going to be allowed to have it. And they are playing a very, very dangerous game, because you're right, the British people, frankly, have had enough. Barry, thank you so much for your call. If you want to be like Barry and have a chat with us, 03444991000 is the number to dial. It's your normal network rate. We're really looking forward to having conversations this morning. Hi, Alex and Samara, loving the show. Has Burnham dusted off Comrade Corbyn's manifesto? Just asking for a friend. Who knows? We're not being told. We're just going to have to wait and see how we're going to be governed by the newly anointed King of the North. Morning, both. I may very well be thick. But why, oh why, is Burnham going to be PM? Not even in Parliament was he plucked off the streets. He hadn't even got a top lip. Why haven't we had an election? Go, Nigel. I'm totally fuddled, says Jane. This is what I'm saying. We're living in a real-time communist coup. That is what's going on. We're living in a real-time communist coup where they're subbing out the man with, you know, mean little eyes who wanted to put us in prison for our tweets, replacing him with Lord knows what in a black T-shirt who wants to basically take all our homes off us, our savings, prevent us going to... I mean, it's just... Why? Why is this happening? Oh, and Joanna in Salisbury says, hi, Alex and Samara, Tony Blair against capital gains tax. You can't tax your way out. So how much capital gains tax is Tony Blair facing under Andy Burnham's new tax policies? Blair has a huge property portfolio of houses and apartments. Very true. In fact, most of the blimmin' Labour cabinet do. So, yeah, why don't they dip their hands into their own pockets?
Yeah.
Right, we're going to take another break. Don't go anywhere. So much more to talk about just after this.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hello, welcome back. So Samara says that Lucy Powell's been weighing into the Farage conversation. Of course she has. Never miss a good opportunity to stab your enemy. What she said?
She said it leaves some very, very serious questions, and she basically goes into the fact that he does need to be investigated, and she says that we must be transparent and open about any conflicts of interest or any suggestions that people have given us money or things in kind or supported us in some way, and if they are expecting some kind of return on that. So there you go. That's what Lucy Powell's had to say.
Well, she would, wouldn't she? Fair enough. That is politics. Right, let's talk now about... This is grim. So there's an MP, I've never heard of her before, called Preet Kaur Gill, who was given oversight as a junior health secretary of what is called, I can't remember what the thing's called, Pathways trial. Here it is, the controversial Pathways trial, which is the puberty blocker trial. But she raised safeguarding concerns. Good, because it's really deranged to be trying to prevent kids from reaching puberty and using experimental hormonal drugs, which completely changes someone's health and life forever, and using kids as guinea pigs, girls as young as 11. I mean, it's so gross. But she's been basically stopped by James Murray, the new health minister, from taking any part in the controversial Pathways trial. She's basically just been excised from the position because, you know, she has safeguarding concerns. But, I mean, come on, this is ghoulish.
Yeah.
You can't use kids as guinea pigs, messing about with their puberty, giving them dodgy hormones.
She's a former social worker and she's an MP for Birmingham, and she said that there are credible safeguarding warnings about puberty blockers being ignored. And this kind of goes back to what you were saying about this really communistic sort of we need to all group together, groupthink type of thing that Labour is hopping on the bandwagon of. Why are they excluding this woman from it? They should have all points of view. And it's hilarious because, again, we talk about this equal representation, having more women in the room. Burnham himself said on record this week that he wants a female in every single meeting that he has in order to have their perspective on things. And then when you do get one, they're getting excluded. I mean, this is someone who's pretty much sticking up for women and children's rights. And I think it's just not right. I mean, the Whitehall source told The Telegraph, if this trial had stayed the responsibility of Preet Gill, she would have cancelled it, or at least until the child victims of the appealing Tavistock scandal had been tracked down to find out how badly damaged they are. I mean, this is
exactly. This is going to be the next infected blood scandal. Mark my words. Within the next few years, you're going to start seeing litigation against doctors, against social workers, against teachers, against parents and guardians who have enabled their children to undergo these life-changing medical experiments. If they're too young to drink alcohol, drive a car, get married, have a credit card, get a tattoo, you're too young to have your genitals removed. I mean, basically, come on. This is going to end up with a massive inquiry in about 10 years' time. And what's going to happen is the government are going to have to give massive cash handouts to all of these people who have essentially, thank you, my darling, who essentially have suffered from child abuse. Because that is what this is. But it won't be the doctors. It won't be James Murray picking up the tab. It won't be the big pharmaceutical companies. It will be us, the taxpayer, who, yet again, has to bail out people who have been criminally negligent medically and criminally negligent when it comes to the protection of children.
Absolutely. I mean, this source said it shows women's voices are not being listened to on this issue, and that one man, James Murray, who has only been there for 2 seconds, is trying to push it through regardless. And it's interesting because they're also trying to silence 2 other female health ministers who have said to have reservations about medicalising gender-questioning children. So it seems like the women are speaking up, the mothers, those who actually know the effects that this had, and one man is silencing them, in my opinion, which just goes against basically everything that they're touting publicly about how they're going to run this administration and how they're going to run this government. It's so hypocritical, and I just find it, I agree with you, it will be a scandal in years to come, but right now it seems like we're in the thick of it, where people are still getting absolutely hung out to dry over just questioning. It's just over questioning. This isn't even over...
Okay, can I just say, I think we now live in an evil country. I think we're an evil country. No, I do. I think we have become an evil country where we're experimenting on children, brainwashing them into thinking that they're born in the wrong body, where we're locking people up for tweets, where we're prioritising gay men adopting babies despite potential evidence safeguarding risks, where we're silencing people who are being mass raped by foreign men, you know, like little girls, where we are allowing terrorists to just come in willy-nilly, where we are attacking our own state religion and prioritising a religion that doesn't share our Western mores. We live in an evil country.
Yeah, I think we've really become misguided somewhere along the way, because we used to be really the country that people would look to.
It's perverted.
Yeah.
If someone said to me 15 years ago, even just 15 years ago, in Britain you're going to be medicalising children, people will be thrown in clink for something they've written on Facebook, that, you know, all the things I've just listed, I'd be like, what? We haven't become some sort of mad, you know, banana republic, have we?
Do you think under Burnham anything will change? Do you think that he's going to have a... Because he's, to be fair, this week when he came, which is hilarious, I mean, Harry Cole actually tweeted about this, how far and how deranged has the left gone that we're actually celebrating the fact that Andy Burnham is coming down on this Rochdale groomer. But, you know, when he tweeted this week, we're going to deport him, we're going to do everything in our power for that, everyone was kind of praising him. Do you think at least he won't be a human rights lawyer and take that lens to the whole situation? Do you think he'll have a little bit of political prowess?
Andy Burnham, I don't think stands a blimmin' chance against the muscularity of the deep state, the establishment, the might of Whitehall, the Supreme Court, all the NGOs, all the quangos, you know, because they run everything now. You know, we've basically got this Gordian knot, this sort of morass of just, you know, bureaucracy, which you probably don't even need anyone in 10 Downing Street. Don't matter.
Well, clearly, you know, I mean, we really don't have a Prime Minister at the moment. We have a Prime Minister only in name, currently.
But what Andy Burnham will do is come along and push even more left-wingery, because his controllers, you know, his handlers, are very into left-wingery, and they'll gobble it up. They'll gobble it up down in Whitehall. They'll love it. So we will probably see tax rises, ladies and gentlemen, without a doubt, because how else are we going to pay for all the migrants?
Yeah. How else are we going to pay for any of Andy's amazing plans that he's trying to basically just impose on the country? It's a very expensive and radical thing that he's outlined, and it has nothing to do with the mandate, in my opinion, the original mandate.
We're such a terrible country at the moment. It is shocking. Donald Trump, please come and help us. JD Vance has done a big interview. He met up with Nigel the other day. Nigel was in Washington, D.C. and was hanging out with JD. And he's done this big interview with The Times. Katie Balls, who's the Washington editor. JD Vance wants you to know that he loves Britain, but he has an unusual way of showing it. I remember when he went to the Munich Security Conference.
Oh, that was a good one,
year and a half ago, and basically warned Europe, quite rightly, that the greatest threat to their security was themselves.
Yes.
And then Marco Rubio went a year later and said exactly the same thing. America, I was over in Florida not long ago, and the Americans are very worried about us.
Yeah. They
We're
are.
worried about it.
They are, and also it also has to do with public image as well. The country itself has done nothing. I mean, Keir Starmer has really plunged this country into some sort of PR disaster among many other things. But there are Australians calling me saying, "Are you okay? What's going on in Britain?" That's never a good look. We know that Sadiq Khan is actually spending £7 million of taxpayer dollars in order to try and rehab the reputation of London. Maybe he should look at actually rehabbing it from within, getting some people locked up. But it is a real problem when you've got JD Vance, he's the second most powerful person in the world, in my opinion, warning us that there is some doom coming. I mean, he writes in this, and he was in the Cotswolds, he was in your ends last summer.
Came down the hood last summer. He went to the Oxfordshire Cotswolds, the posh people Cotswolds, not the sort of yokely, whimsical, you know, normal people Cotswolds.
He said about Burnham, I don't know a lot about Andy Burnham. Obviously, Britain's one of our closest and most important allies, so whoever's Prime Minister, we're going to work with them. So he kind of gives the line. But I think they're a bit scared about Burnham. When you heard, well, not scared in the way of, oh, woe is me, I'm gonna worry about what he's going to do. But I think they know that he is very left-wing. It's this relationship that he's going to have with Trump. How's that going to play out? I mean, they couldn't be more different in terms of how they've grown up, their political policies. I mean, at least
I'm looking forward to Andy Burnham turning up at the Oval Office in that black T-shirt, getting a dressing down from the president. Where is your shirt and tie, young man?
Even Zelensky was getting getting it, so I'm sure Burnham won't be far from, a bit of a something on his... do you think he'd turn up in a T-shirt to the White House? I mean...
No, I think they understand what happened to Zelensky.
I don't know.
But I don't know. I think that actually there might be a sort of play here that Burnham will do it deliberately to get the dressing down from Trump, because that would actually appeal to the base.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. Will he play those games?
Oh, they love those games. Right. We're going to take a short break. So many messages coming through, so keep those coming in as well. We're going to read some out after the break. 0344 499 1000 is the number if you want to send us a WhatsApp. 87222 for text. Like the word talk before you text. We're back after this.
Got some breaking news that has just come in. talkSPORT have announced a brand new partnership in a developing story. We hear they've created So Good Lager right in time for football's big summer. Just in, we're hearing that So Good Lager will be pouring pints across all O'Neill's pubs and some of the best sports pubs across the UK. With the big kickoff just around the corner, you can find out where to get your hands on a fresh pint of So Good Lager at talksport.com/lager.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Oh, the aircon's broken in this studio. It's hard work, isn't it? I'm gonna sue. I'm gonna get litigious. I'm melting.
You've got grounds to, that's for sure.
Gosh, it's boiling in here. Right, let's do some messages and then get through some more stories. Hi, Alex and Samara. I fear Burnham will change the voting system without a referendum. I do as well. He has intimated that he wants the country to move towards proportional representation, which, if you look at things sort of loosely as they stand right now, if we were to have a general election under first past the post tomorrow, the right basically are the ones who are set to benefit the most from that. If we move to proportional representation, that would largely help coalitions on the left wing. And is he going to have a referendum on that? He said, oh, it'll be in the manifesto before the next general election. I think that they could just bring it in anyway. They did in Wales.
Yeah, you're right, actually. That set a precedent, didn't it? I think that they could just bring it in. I mean, you're right. This change in all the systems, he's had such an easy road up to number 10. I think now he'll be kind of indestructible in what he can and can't do, and he'll try and push definitely things through like this to solidify his power, essentially. I mean, just like Keir Starmer tried to not have those local elections happen, and Reform then had to actually take them legal, go legal with that route, and make those locals happen, which then, if you think about it, started the entire domino effect to Starmer now being removed and Burnham coming into power. But that obviously Reform get Starmer out didn't work in their favour in the end. So I think they do try to do these things. We need to be privy to it. I mean,
they will gerrymander. They'll give 16-year-olds the vote.
I was just going to say, yeah.
They will mess about with boundaries. All political parties mess about with boundaries. They cancel the local elections, like you just said. I don't see what is stopping them if they look at the system and think, well, we will be able to stay in power for futurity if we move to PR. Why they wouldn't do it? Because they've got a big majority. They could just push that through and force it upon us and tell us, because it's the right thing to do.
Well, the plan is 10 years that he outlined, Alex, so that's clearly the scope that he's going for. It's going to be...
There'll be nothing left. Oh, well, look outside the windows. It's just like burning, rubberized London. You know, people barbecuing goats on the street, piles of trash being picked over by orphaned children. It's just, you know...
It's present-day London, really.
Basically, some boroughs already. Here's a really horrific story, which I don't think's really got enough attention by media in this country. There was a joint operation between Germany's Federal Criminal Police Office and Britain's National Crime Agency, coordinated through Europol, as well as law enforcement from Brazil, Canada, France, Hungary, the Netherlands, Spain and the United States, into the fact that apparently among 7 countries, there have been 156 perpetrators of drug-facilitated sexual assaults. Now, this is in the wake of the horrific case of Gisèle Pellicot in France, which made worldwide headlines, rightly so, after her then-husband was found guilty of sedating her and soliciting men to rape her over many years. What they have found out is there are multiple online networks where perpetrators are objectifying and dehumanising victims using encrypted messaging services, forums, closed chat groups to exchange experiences, normalise abusive behaviour, facilitate the illegal trade in prescription medications and narcotics and coordinate criminal acts. There's never been a worse time to be a woman. You know, at one point it was like, great, we can go to work now, we can vote, hurrah. We live in such a dark, hypersexualised era, whether you're looking at pornography, which largely is industrialised sexual attack. You know, no one knows the provenance of videos when it comes to watching user-generated content. So many women are being trafficked and, you know, abused, exploited, who are vulnerable and doing depraved acts that very few would actually willingly consent to. That is having a drip feed down into the larger male psyche. We were talking about the manosphere this morning and the sort of rot that is being pumped into men's brains. Today, as a woman, you are told that you must idolise people like the Kardashians, who are made on a surgical table for the male gaze. They don't sing, they don't dance, they don't act, they don't play sports. You know, women are being told, get lip surgeries, you know, wear false eyelashes, get a boob job, pout on a camera. Little 14-year-old girls, send a naked photo on Snapchat. All the while boys are being told that, you know, normal sexual activity is essentially, you know, physical abuse. Really deranged and depraved acts. So it is of no surprise to me that you've got a, you know, burgeoning industry in the dark web where men are sharing fantasies and tips how to drug and rape their partners.
It's really, really messed up. And overarching all of what you just said, Alex, is also this empowerment that we keep being sold as women. And I think it's completely false advertising. And I want my refund back, if you know what I mean. It's when you look at this Operation Medusa, which I mean, good job to them to going and investigating this, because it's very tricky to get to the bottom of these things. People use fake usernames and things like that. They've made 57 arrests. They've safeguarded 158 victims, and they actually opened 113 investigations. But that, I think, is just the tip of the iceberg. I think this thing is very dark and murky underneath.
What are we doing as a country about this? Yes, they want to slap a sort of social media ban on 16-year-olds, which mean all of us are going to have to register our identity, who we are, personal details, in order to go on social media. I'm slightly for the idea of 16-year-olds not being on social media, I must admit. I think it's a brain rot. I think
but they go onto these dark web. Well, that's what happened. I spoke to my cousins in Australia. They're all now on these weird chatbot sites that aren't regulated by the government, so it's, you know.
But why? I mean, I've never heard a single person in the cabinet of any successive government talking about banning user-generated pornography. You can't sell moonshine on the street. You can't just bootleg your own alcohol and, you know, sell it out your garage. And yet, you know, you've got all of these, you know, no one knows the genesis of a lot of these videos. A lot of them involve extreme acts of violence. It's having a huge effect on men. I mean, this is it. We talk about things like this, where the woman's always a victim. But what is quite surprising, actually, is that it's actually really messing men up neurologically. It's actively rewiring their brains. It's having a massive damaging effect on society. Like I said, evil country, nothing being done about it.
Well, we wonder why now the birth rates are dropping. People aren't going and getting married younger. You know, there is a lack of traditional nuclear family that is being now that is basically happening in this country, and that's a big, big issue. And I think it can all be traced back to things like this. There is a real generational problem going on, and I'm not quite sure it's just self-inflicted. I think there are countries that would like the Western men to be embroiled in this sort of thing.
Oh, totally. That's a big subject. Let's pick up on that one. Again, we've got to go to a short break now, but don't go anywhere. When we come back, we're going to be joined by Kevin Hollinrake MP, who's chairman of the Conservative Party. See you just on the other side of this.
I swear by Almighty God that I will be faithful and bear true allegiance to His Majesty King Charles, his heirs and successors, according to law. So help me God.
It's happened before, but it is nonetheless still rather extraordinary that somebody who was only elected or officially sworn in as an MP less than 24 hours ago, in 3 weeks' time, is going to be running the country.
Yes, I think it is rather extraordinary. I think the issue isn't whether someone like that should automatically have to hold a general election. If Andy Burnham wants to introduce major changes to our constitution, he's talked about overhauling the House of Lords. He's also talked about overhauling our electoral system, bringing in some form of PR. I think if he wants to do any of those things, he needs a mandate from the public to do them. To try and do them without calling an election, I think, would be a constitutional outrage.
I've got an interesting tweet. There's always a tweet, Julia.
Yep.
If I can just read this out to you from Andy Burnham 3 years ago. We need to start demanding a general election at the end of this Tory leadership election. Well, well, well. That was Andy Burnham actually 4 years ago in 2022. So we're saying stick by your word, be consistent, Andy, and when you're Prime Minister, call a general election.
Look, the battle is really on, though, for number 11. Who's going to be the Chancellor? Ed Miliband, don't forget, has played an integral key role in this coup, and it is a coup because no one apart from 25,000 good people of Makerfield have voted for this guy. Yeah. So he's played a pretty integral role in undermining Keir Starmer and Ed Miliband aren't really speaking. He's going to want a big reward. But, he is, probably the most left-wing person in the government, and he will spook the markets.
Lou Hay, I mean, the reality is, look, she served her time. She was cast out of government. The reality is, as you said, she has been central to his campaign. She was central to his campaign in Makerfield. More broadly, she's been central to his campaign to enter Downing Street. He owes her, and she will definitely get a role. I'm not.
What do you say to the people that have texted me in their droves this morning? This is a really corny sentence, but it's true. That lawbreakers can't be lawmakers.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. It is so hot in this studio. Samara and I are melting. I was just screeching to the guys in the gallery saying, get me a fan! The air conditioning's broken, and I'm telling you, I'm not sure I'm going to make it over the next 2 hours.
I know. And
I think I'm going to stretch it out.
I empathise, because I know the rest of the country's going through this. It's like, I think I've become soft in Britain. I can't deal with the heat anymore.
Yeah, you're an Aussie. You're supposed to be able to deal with it.
If I'm even flailing, then I don't know how you must be feeling right now.
It's absolutely, I'm melting here. I think I might pass out soon. So if all of a sudden it goes sort of ominously quiet and I've slipped under the desk, you know why. It's it really is boiling. Right, let's do some messages and then remind you of the housekeeping as well. In fact, let's do the housekeeping now, because if you want to send a message, the number is 03444991000 on WhatsApp. You can also phone us up, register your interest, leave us your details, and we'll give you a call back if you want to have a chit-chat with Samara and I. We'd like that. We're very friendly. We don't bite. 87222 is the number on text message. Write the word talk before you text. Someone's just messaged going, warning! Democracy is over. Burnham will be Big Brother. Yeah, that meme,
Yes.
that horrible emoji thing they rolled out in Makerfield. Do you think we're just going to have like that as a massive projection in the middle of Trafalgar Square? You know, Burnham is watching.
I wouldn't put it past him. I'm not going to lie. I think he's really high on his own supply at the moment.
Yes. It's got to be said, it's true. Aren't Labour conflicted by taking millions from the unions? That's true,
Ooh,
actually.
yeah.
That's actually true. You know, you can stitch anything you like up in left-wingery. How much would Labour have if this was stopped? A bit rich having a go at Farage for having a rich donor. Is it time all parties were given a set amount from the state, which is monitored by a cross-party committee, and no freebies? Don't hold your breath. I'm afraid that getting a set amount from the state monitored by a cross-party committee just sounds way too communist for my liking.
Yeah, it does. I don't know. But to be honest, the current system seems to also not be working that well. So there's that.
Ernie says, hi both. The reason why all the politicians want to go down the left-wing socialist come communist routes for this country is to make everyone equal except them when they become the oligarchs with the super yachts, the mansions, homes abroad, and they'll answer to no one. Sounds great, doesn't it? It is very Orwellian. I mean, this is the thing. Yeah. Most of that front bench are like, you know, rolling in it.
Yeah.
And then they have that. Did you see the Bridget Phillips and like, I was so poor, we had no heating, my mother had to stitch curtains or whatever it was.
Yes.
And the neighbours have turned around going, no, the houses were perfectly good. They might have been council houses, but they weren't falling apart at the seams. This has jumped off. It's sort of poverty pornography, isn't it?
It is. They love to do it, the Labour Party. They really do.
I was so poor when I was growing up. My mum couldn't spell.
It's also, you know, Burnham's whole backstory is how terrible it was, but he's actually the one who got mobilised by Thatcher's government. He lived in a time where you could grow up pretty working class. You know, his mum was a receptionist, his dad worked at a telecommunications company, and go to Cambridge and then eventually become the PM. That was all within Thatcher's Britain. Yeah. And he vilifies her for that, and he actually is a product of the success of it. So come on now.
But also this, you know, who is it? It's Angela Rayner. I was so skint growing up. My mum didn't know how to spell. You know, Bridget Phillips, he barely could turn on a tap. Yeah, it's just like, I don't care about your sob story.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't care.
I mean, Starmer, my dad was a toolmaker. I'll be lucky to see the end of that. And very happy. Yeah.
Starmer grew up in Oxted. Have you been to Oxted?
Yeah.
Places like picture, postcard, you know, commuter belt London. You couldn't get posher than Oxted, really.
Exactly. And the issue is they think that this will garner votes. I just don't think British people work like that. I don't think that they really care that much.
What's so crazy is all the working classes don't vote for Labour anymore. They vote Reform. It's all the metropolitan elites who are voting for the Labour Party.
Well, exactly. Yeah, no, it's the Islington dinner sect that hopefully we'll see the back of sometime soon. But
after 10 years, if we're lucky.
The 10-year plan.
The 10-year plan. Let's speak to Kevin Hollenrake now, who's the chairman of the Conservative Party. Good morning to you, Kevin.
Morning.
How are you doing on this fine Sunday morning?
I'm doing great, thanks very much. I'm looking forward to talking to you. And then you're my last one this morning, then I'm going to go out and walk the dog.
Oh, good for you. Good for you. Now, let us talk about... I've spotted a story in the papers today where Kemi Badenoch has said, no, there is no way back for Tories who have defected to Reform. After reports, apparently, some of them have picked up the phone begging to come home. What can you tell us about that?
I have no idea. I've not had those conversations myself, because I think...
You're the chairman.
Those people would know my answer. I think I make it very clear that people like Rob Kenrick and Sibylla Braverman have no place back in the Conservative Party.
So is anyone still picking up the phone to Kruger and Jenrick? Are there still nice little conversations happening? Because supposedly that's being suggested.
Absolutely not. I'm not picking the phone up to any of those people. I mean, in life, you make your bed and you lie in it. So, and I think they've made their choice. As far as I'm concerned, that's it. You know, we're moving on. We're a far more united party without people like Rob Jenrick, who is trying to undermine Kemi on all the time. So we are moving forward. Kemi's doing great. She's the most popular leader in the country, political leader in the country, and the party's got some catching up to do, but we are catching up, and we're very much up for the fight and looking forward to the next general election.
If I don't say so myself, it seems to me the Conservatives are a little bit embarrassed about themselves at the moment. Every time I'm looking at news reports, social media, it's Kemi, 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 as if it's a one-woman band, and I don't really hear much from anyone else in the Conservative Party.
Well, I'm on your programme all the time. I mean, I'm never afraid to go on the media and talk about what we're doing as a party. I mean, the Conservative Party is built on values that I think are basically the facts of life for Conservative. It's all about freedom, personal responsibility, opportunity, all the things that people really want and need. And So I'm proud to be a Conservative. I've lived Conservative values. I built my own business from scratch, international business, and that was all about following a Conservative way. And I want as many people as possible in the country to have that opportunity too, and that's why we all stand to be parliamentarians. But
I mean,
there's no doubt, though, we are very proud of our leader in Kemi Badenoch.
The thing is, though, the way I see things, having knocked about in politics a couple of decades myself, is 20 years ago you had Nigel Farage versus David Cameron. You had this huge gulf ideologically between the two. One wanted to stay in the EU, signed us up to the Lisbon Treaty, open border immigration, loved net zero. And Nigel Farage was saying back then, no, this net zero stuff is madness. We're going to deindustrialise at a rapid rate. The open borders are dangerous and we should be a sovereign nation. What seems to have happened now is the Conservative Party has suddenly got with that agenda and are trying to out Farage. What is the point in having two right-wing parties, basically, that you couldn't put a fact paper between?
Well, I mean, you said it all. The reform is splitting the vote, but the reality is...
You've copied Farageism, haven't you?
But look at the facts. We've always wanted to control migration. We couldn't do it forward.
What about the Boris wave? You can't say you've always wanted to control migration.
Well, if you ask me a question, please give me the courtesy of trying to reply to it. But the reality is, yes, definitely Boris got the immigration rules wrong when we finally had the levers at our disposal to control migration. And to be honest, that was what leaving the European Union was all about. It was about controlling migration. Conservative Party always wanted to do that. Interesting you say about net zero, because Nigel Farage is not against net zero. I've heard him argue for things like going to cleaner energy on many occasions, going for nuclear and other forms of energy. So it's wrong to say he's totally against net zero. The reality is, though, what we do as Conservative Party have always done is properly think about our policies before we roll them out. What you see with Nigel Farage time and time again, which you haven't referred to, is all the time he's come up with crazy policies that he's had to reverse. Things like these £90 billion of tax cuts he promised at the last election, or things like the two-child benefit cap, which he wanted to lift and then decided to keep, or of towing small boats back to northern France. All this stuff he just talks about. He's got the wonderful position where he can stand on the sidelines and simply criticise everybody else without having any workable solutions of his own. That's the reality. What you'll see with Kemi, she has she understands what needs to be done. She has a proper plan and the people to implement it. Our party is much more than just Kemi Badenoch, but we're very proud to have her as a leader. But we work out what needs to be done first, and then talk about it after. But
you've got to admit, haven't you? I mean, let's look historically at the Conservative Party, because we've had 15 years of Conservative Party rule. We know what happened. We've lived through it. We've got the receipts. There was record levels of immigration. There were multiple treaties signed at various COP events that, in fact, we indeed hosted and tried to go further and faster than anyone else on this issue. Brexit wasn't really done at all, was it? There was a failure to deliver on anything that remotely looks like returning sovereignty. And all of a sudden, the Conservative Party are banging the drum saying, trust us to deliver on all of these things, when quite clearly they failed to over 3 terms.
Well, let me talk about what we did over those 3 terms. Have it ever occurred to you, why do we keep getting re-elected if we were so unsuccessful? But anyway, aside from that particular point, remember the way the country was in 2010? We faced this huge deficit, bigger than Greece's. The country was bankrupt. We balanced the books for day-to-day spending over 10 years. We completely turned around education results in this country from some of the worst standards in the world, some of the best standards in the world. We reduced unemployment by 1.2 million. We're 860,000 workless households working again. We've got people through the COVID crisis. We've got people through the cost of living crisis. We kept Jeremy Corbyn out of number 10 Downing Street. We supported Ukraine when all the civil servants were telling us we shouldn't. And do you think Keir Starmer would have done that? We did many good things in those 14 years that we should be proud of, but we made some mistakes. We definitely made some mistakes on migration, and we made some mistakes in terms of trying to get to net zero too quickly, which disadvantaged our businesses and made life too expensive for our households. We accept those points, and that's why we've got a cheap power plan to be able to reduce those costs by 20% for households and for businesses, and things like reform welfare so we can cut taxes to get the economy moving again, pull out the ECHR so we can properly defend our borders. All these policies are there. They're the right policies. We've got the right leader, the right team, and the right plan. And I think come a general election, all those factors will be more and more important.
I remember back in 2014, Theresa May saying we're going to leave the ECHR back then when she was a Home Secretary. That failed to come to pass.
Yeah, we should have done it.
Right.
We should have done it.
Right, I don't know why it didn't happen. There was 10 further years of Conservative government after that. Let us talk now about which is the bigger atrocity, which is the bigger scandal. The fact that we've got a future PM who's just been auto-anointed without any sort of general election, or whether Nigel Farage has breached allegations, breached parliamentary rules by not declaring certain things. Which is exercising you the most, Kevin?
Well, definitely the interest of the country, which is about the Prime Minister. And all we hear from, well, we don't hear from anything from Andy Burnham when it comes to questions and answers, but when he talks and he makes his statements through there's various different mechanisms of doing that, set-piece speeches without Q&A, all he talks about is more tax. And the reality is, it's not Andy Burnham is no different from Keir Starmer. The problem is they're both the Labour Party. All they understand is about more tax, more spending. That's all they understand about. What we need is a leader of this country who will cut the costs of doing government so we can properly fund our defence and we can cut taxes to get the economy moving again. That's what Kemi has set out that we will do. Andy Burnham will not make those tough decisions. I'm sure of it. None of the Labour front bench, none of the current cabinet, and I bet none of the future cabinet have ever had a single ounce of any business experience, no real-world experience. Plenty of people in the Conservative Party have. People like me who started a business from scratch and built a national business. Chris Phillips did, Mel Stride did, Jeremy Hunt did, James Cartledge did. We've got people who actually understand how the real world works, or make sure we have real world solutions to our problems. You'll never get that from Labour.
Do you think we need a general election?
I do, if Andy Burnham will not work with us on doing what we need to do now. What we need to do now is reform welfare very quickly so we can find the money today to fund defence, because we potentially face an attack on NATO by 2030. That's according to our defence experts. That's a huge challenge for this country, one we must meet. We're happy to work cross-parties deliver on that. So this is not about electioneering, but if you won't do that, yes, absolutely. We'll know by the autumn. If he's not doing that, we want a general election.
Kevin, thank you ever so much. Kevin Hollenrake there, who's chairman of the Conservative Party. Interesting, yeah, I mean, I agree with him. We've got to go back to the public. I wonder how fighting fit the Conservatives are. And this is the thing, you know, talking to Kevin there about the fact that the Conservative Party have wholesale adopted what I consider to be Farageism. And that's not just me, you know, being biased and throwing my support.
He admitted it, really.
It is Farageism. Yeah. Farage has been constant on these things. The Conservative Party haven't and didn't deliver it, and are now saying, well, we're more Farage than Farage and vote for us instead. And this is the problem with the right wing. We're desperately in need of a right-wing revolution, and instead we've got internecine warfare.
Yeah, absolutely. And you can see in America it actually happened quite a few times. It's also an ongoing battle between all their kind of journalists over there who are in the right. There is a fractious nature to right-wing ideology in itself. It's interesting to see, you know, in Makerfield it was quite clear that the left were able to band together really successfully. You could see that people were tactically voting. Greens people voted for Burnham. Lib Dems voted for Burnham. Will we see a Lib-Lab-Green coalition in the future? Probably.
The left wing,
we won't see a right-wing one, though.
The left wing are always very good about forming coalitions, and the right wing, unfortunately, are often their own worst enemies. Can you feel that? I think the air conditioning's on.
Hallelujah!
Woo! Right, let's celebrate that during the advert break. Don't go anywhere. We're going to be back much cooler, too cool for school, after this.
got some breaking news that has just come in. talkSPORT have announced a brand new partnership in a developing story. We hear they've created So Good Lager right in time for football's big summer. Just in, we're hearing that So Good Lager will be pouring pints across all O'Neill's pubs and some of the best sports pubs across the UK. With the big kickoff just around the corner, you can find out where to get your hands on a fresh pint of So Good Lager at talksport.com/lager.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hello, better turn this fan off. Blimmin' heck, sorry, I was just sort of like trying to... I thought the air conditioner... How do you turn this thing off, Chris?
Oh,
there we go. Sorry, I was going wild. Sorry, welcome back. Like I said, we're having aircon dramas here in Talk Towers. And
yeah,
so I was having a moan, so Chris kindly ran in a couple of fans for me, and we came back from advert break, and I'd forgotten to turn it off. I'd have been looking like some sort of poodle with their head sticking out of a window.
Or glamour model, you know. Bit of wind in the hair.
Bit of wind in the bit of an 80s glamour shoot. Actually, talking about that, Jason in Keswick says a bit of glamour on a Sunday morning with my two favourite Talk women whilst we clean our guest bedrooms and bathrooms here in rainy Keswick. Keep up speaking up for us with common sense. You're good, aren't you, on a Sunday doing the cleaning?
Yeah.
There is something wrong with a person's moral compass if he wants to give children puberty blockers. If your instinct is not healthy enough to reject the proposal, you should be removed from any position of authority. People don't know they are sick. This is what I'm saying. We live in an evil country.
Yeah.
We
do. We really do.
Morning, Alex and Samara. Why aren't male and female sportsmen and women being promoted more as role models instead of influencers, says Taff in Dover. This is the thing. Now, when
It's a really
I was
good
growing
point,
up,
actually.
when you were a kid, what did you want to be? Who were your, like, role models?
The Prime Minister. I was
Did you?
Yeah, I was always interested in politics and journalism. That was end game for me.
And who were your sort of role models?
Actually, I have to say, I mean, because it was... You don't want to know when I grew up, but it was Malala Yousafzai, all that sort of thing. You know the girl who got shot in the head by the Taliban, and she sold that story to everyone. Which, I mean, it's true, it did happen. I'm not saying that.
She has a brave young thing.
She's very brave. No, she was a good. I think I've become a little bit cynical about her in years to come, but I liked her. Who was your icon?
I grew up, so I was lucky. So when I was a child of the 80s, we had an amazing queen, one of the most powerful, respected women in the world, and Margaret Thatcher.
Yes.
It was proper girl power era back in the 80s, before all this fake news girl power came in. I wanted to be a fighter pilot.
What?
I had on my notice board a news story of the very first female fighter pilot, and I wanted to be a fighter pilot.
Oh, my God. Or like an Amelia Earhart type, you know. I could see that.
I like aircraft.
You've still got time, Alex.
I can't, I'm blind. They won't have me.
They probably will.
I can barely reverse park. They're not going to have me, like, knocking about in an F-35 anytime soon. Forget that. I mean, I've had laser eye surgery and I'm still blind.
No, I'm sure you could file some sort of DEI claim and get
that's
it.
true, actually. Actually, these days, these days I'd be like, well, I'm part disabled. Yeah. I'm a woman as well. Give me that lightning over there. Let me get in it and throw it around the skies. Let's be honest, politicians, many have taken freebies and have financial irregularities, and we, the voters, apparently care more about that than the lies government have said about sorting out legal and illegal immigration. I think not. This is what I'm talking about. When you look back at some of the greatest politicians of our era, were they all squeaky clean? Were they beatified? Were they, I don't care, right? I don't care if a Prime Minister is rich. I don't care if they came from the working classes. I don't care whether they're gay or straight or have a whole harem of mistresses.
Yeah.
I just want people to run this country effectively. Is that too much to ask?
I agree, and I think that the sanitisation of a lot of politicians has actually led to a lot of mediocre people getting into politics, and that's the issue. But very, very smart and courageous people are usually deeply flawed and have their vices and have their problems. But if it doesn't get in the way of leadership, then I agree with you. I think we need to really chuck out this perception that everyone needs to have a completely clean record, because I don't think you'll find anyone like that.
This sort of stuff really came in with David Cameron when it's like, oh, look at the photographs of me in the kitchen with the mould insult.
Yes.
And, you know, look at my child. And Ed Davey does a lot of this as well.
He does.
And then you had, you know, I remember when Starmer came in, they were like, oh, yes, I took my daughter to a Taylor Swift concert. I'm like, I don't care.
Yeah. Yes,
I really don't
and look
care.
where that got us. You know, I think he was someone who probably did pass all the kind of tests in terms of, I mean, he's got slightly patchy past, but he kind of was a good face for whatever they were trying to do, but he was woefully incompetent.
Slightly patchy past. We still have a Prime Minister who led a witch hunt against veterans, who represented,
Yes.
and if you could come up with the who's
Bunch
who
of terrorists.
scum of the universe, you know, anti-British, you know, enemies of the state, Starmer was basically their lawyer. I mean, it's just, oh, there you go.
Yeah, there is
Be
that.
our Prime Minister.
There is that.
You know, that's not a problem, but, you know, Nigel Farage stayed in someone's house. Ooh.
Well, it's really interesting. I was just looking this morning into some of the contracts that Andy Burnham's been doing, and there was a scandal about 4 weeks ago with the fact that EY3 Media donated around £45,000 to his campaign, right? And then later they won almost £300,000 worth of GMCA contracts. And EY3 Media is the one doing all his social media stuff. So it's quite interesting how there's a lot of interwebbing between the government. It's actually going quite wild on Twitter, so I thought it's worth mentioning before
Do you know
it really
what
pops off.
You're like a hot, sexy version of Richard Osman sitting there on your laptop giving me facts from the sidelines.
No, I just think it's like, hello, if we're going to have this interrogation on one side, we've got to interrogate what's going on with Burnham and his whole social media campaign.
But they don't. In the run-up to the blimmin' general election, did anyone ask Sir Keir Starmer what his policies were? They just decided he was going to be the Prime Minister. Labour was going to win by a majority. A change. The adults are in the room now. That lasted long, didn't it? 2 years, and we're sort of switching again. Because no one asks them. In the same with Ed Davey. No one ever asks the Lib Dems what they actually stand for. The man's just always farting around in a Lido or on a jet ski on some body of water, so he can't be asked any direct questions about, I know, the Horizon scandal when you were Post Office's minister and then worked as a consultant for legal entities, you know, making money out of that scandal. But no, he's nice, he's left-wing.
Yeah.
You know, it's just, it's ridiculous. Let's speak to Alan in Birmingham. Good morning, Alan.
Morning, Alex.
Hiya, how you doing?
I'm okay, thank you. You look good, anyhow. If you haven't got a headache, I might give you one.
Oh, don't. It's too hot in here. Let me get my fan ready in case I need to sort of cool down after this.
Firstly, if intelligent people, if education is so important, why is it educated people cause all the trouble in the world? 2, it's about time the House of Lords is sorted out. 3, that with modern technology, why do we need so many MPs? And when are they going to sort Quango's out? Thank you, Alex.
Well, I love that. That was like some sort of doomster scrolling shopping list of everything wrong with the UK. Let's work through all of these. So, educated people cause all the problems. Well, I'm not sure that's true. But what I would say is this, OK? We live in a country now where we have had baked into the system about 2 decades worth of lanyardism. You know, if you want to get ahead in the civil service, you have to have done the critical race theory course. You have to have sort of put a pronoun in your bio. You have to, you know, we've had this sort of brainwashing, largely in the public sector, certainly in education for 2 decades now. And so what happens? If you're a man who works on a building site, you are not sort of, you know, inculcated with this stuff. You haven't had to do the DEI rubbish. You haven't had to, you know, do all your critical race theories courses and wear the lanyards. And also, you live in the real world where you're actually directly exposed to what's going on. Whereas the people who have had the education and professional training and all the rest of it have been corrupted by wokery. That is why educated people cause all of the problems. What was our next one? Elected politicians, House of Lords. We have, get this right, do you know how many elected representatives the United Kingdom has?
Pray tell, Alex.
Have a guess.
Oh, gosh. I really couldn't tell. I couldn't tell you.
Go on, you got to guess.
No.
You've got to pick a number.
Give me a ballpark.
I'm not giving you a ballpark.
Oh, is it really low or really high?
It's not really low.
Okay. Oh, God, I couldn't.
I want to guess.
50?
Elected? You think we've got 50 elected officials? We've got 650 MPs alone.
Well, who's actually running the show? What I'm saying is it's come down to a very small pool of people.
Brace yourself for this. We have over 20,000 elected people.
Really?
Yeah, you've got the local authorities, the devolved governments, the MPs,
God,
the
I thought we were talking about the ones who are really running the show.
No, but it's mad. And what Burnham wants to do with this further devolution and further nationalisation, at the moment, where we have devolution, in Wales and Scotland, first of all, both countries run on a £25 billion deficit in terms of what they make into contributions from their taxpayers, even though they don't necessarily have direct tax-raising powers, is 26 billion less than they are spending. You know, England has to write them a big old cheque with the Barnett formula. 1 in 4 jobs in Wales is for the government. 1 in 4. Now, that is a false economy. That is not generating money, which is why there's such a huge deficit. Because taxpayers, people who actually wake up in the morning, go to work, run a business, pay tax, are paying for just extra layers of bureaucracy and pen pushers. A country of this size doesn't need a parliament, you know, an oversized, bloated House of Lords with over 1,000 people just sitting there doing Lord knows what, a government in Wales, a government in Scotland, a government in Northern Ireland, a government basically in London, the Greater London Authority, you know, basically a government in Manchester with the Metro mayors, unitary authorities, police and crime committee. You know, it goes on and on and on. We don't need all of these bureaucrats and pen pushers. We're going to get to a stage soon under Burnhamism, because he wants more of this stuff.
He does.
And he wants the state to take over all of our utilities, and he wants the government to back factories in reindustrialisation. Everything will be owned by the state. Everyone will work for the state. That is where we're going. And we know it doesn't work. Any country that have tried communism in the past has just driven their populations essentially towards cannibalism and famine.
Well, there's no communism success story, is there, that we can point to and say, wow, that really worked. But no, you're right. And I was just joking earlier about all the elected officials. I just think that you're right, and I think that also he thinks of everything through his own lens of, because he was a decently capable mayor-ish. I mean, he got a lot of investment from China into Manchester, which has helped, which has helped revive it. Yes. But it's not a lot of the elected officials are actually capable of doing their job, and that's why devolution is flawed in itself, because there are a lot of people that are woefully unqualified. You can't have them making the big decisions. I don't know how that quite works. There's also a lot of mayors that are not very good at what they're great at cutting ribbons, and they can go and do whatever and go to the bake sale and make people feel happy, but they're probably not the ones to be making the big decisions when it comes to budgets and things like that. But that's clearly what Burnham wants, and that's his weird vision.
Soon enough, we're all going to be Winston Smith. Dan from Kent says the country is a ticking time bomb of another Southport moment, but next time it will be an illegal migrant. If we keep allowing unvetted men from cultures with no rights to women and girls in the country, the odds only go in one direction. The thing is, though, saying that, I think people have become desensitised. I open the newspaper now and it's like, oh, look, 2 more Afghans or Syrians or Egyptians or Somalis or Sudanese have been, you know, attacking women or been imprisoned for something or the other. And you just, it has become normalised.
Yeah, massively. I mean, stories that we have sort of on the 5th rung of what's on our news list here in the media would have been the top story for days and days and days on end, probably 5 years ago. And you're right, we are becoming desensitised, and that's a really bad thing, because we should actually be focusing on these stories and asking why it's happening. Andy Burnham, for example, not to keep going back to the Prime Minister in waiting, but he didn't mention immigration once in his speech. It did not come up. He has somehow absolutely swiveled around that question, and of course he's not really taking any questions from the media either. We don't know what his plan is on it. I mean, could you tell me what his vision is for immigration, what he wants to do?
All he said was he thought HMOs were unfair. That's all I heard.
Yes, HMO Britain he spoke about once, but it was more about the fact that he doesn't want people's towns becoming HMO places for asylum seekers to go, and he doesn't want towns to be overrun with migrants.
So where
everyone can get behind that.
Right, yeah. So what are you going to do then, Burnham? Going to deport people? Didn't think so. Right, we're going to be taking a short break. After that, we're joined by the excellent Philip Kisserly, Senior Fellow from the New Culture Forum.
across the UK. On DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hello and welcome back to the show. And shall we just welcome aboard HMS Common Sense, as I like to call it, direct from the deeps, the brilliant Philip Kisserly, Senior Fellow at the New Culture Forum. Phil, great to have you back on the programme. How are you doing?
Hi, Alex. I'm fine. How are you?
Oh, bit hot and bothered, if I'm honest. We've got a sort of a malfunctioning air conditioning system, and I feel like I'm in the Central African Republic right now, and it's not really working out well for me. But
no, well, I'm a 54-year-old man, so I've got a malfunctioning air conditioning system in my body, so I know exactly how you feel.
Now, where do we begin today? I suppose the big headline today is the story's all about Nigel Farage. First of all, there's been the accusations of him taking £5 million, not declaring it. What was it for? It was 12 months before he became an MP. He should have registered it. Now the Times have absolutely gone to town with what they're calling an investigation into other things that Nigel Farage may or may not have received, and particularly focusing on a guy called George Cottrell, known as Posh George, a British aristocrat, former US federal inmate. Now, the thing is about Posh George, I know Posh. Posh George doesn't hide what he was imprisoned for. In fact, he brought out a book called How to Launder Money and had the launch in raffles. That is very George. Now, optically in politics, that doesn't really look good if you're hanging out with a felon, but is there anything structurally wrong with the fact that Posh George, when Nigel Farage was a private citizen, paid for his security and paid for him to have a skeleton social media team, because I can't imagine Nigel Farage sitting there, you know, cutting up his own YouTubes, or saying, look, I've got a house in central London that when you're in London, if you need somewhere for privacy, you can use. Is there something structurally wrong with this? Is this a scandal?
No, I don't think it is, and it was quite bizarre reading the Times expose. It felt like you were reading a novel from the 1970s that was fixating on the upper classes. Either that, or it was a slightly elongated expose that you'd see in The Star, but with slightly less breasts and bums, you know, fewer breasts and bums. But that was essentially what it was. It's Operation Get Nigel, isn't it? And in some ways, I'm quite buoyed by this, because if they're focusing on this non-stuff, this, you know, stuff that happened, 10 years ago, very kind of ordinary arrangements in his private and public life just to make it work because he's here, there, and everywhere, and he's a public and he's a public figure, then great, that's all they've got. That's what they're focusing on. It tells me that they're scared. It tells me that they really don't want this man as prime minister, but it also tells me that they really think he could be prime minister. So for me, I'm not that bothered about it, because it's all there. You could find out all of this stuff if you wanted to, if you just wanted to Google it, because as you say, no one's hiding anything. And it feels as though it's the establishment just breaking down and kind of thinking, what the hell can we do?
The playbook, right, the playbook is so familiar, isn't it? Because, you know, there's been all these... I had journalists phoning me up, because I've known Nigel for 20 years. I had journalists phoning me up going, is he ill? Has he got medical problems? So that was how they did with Donald Trump, wasn't it? He's not well, or he's got this, or he's got that, release your medicals. And then it's the lawfare. And then it's the sort of demonisation. It's like they follow a blimmin' script.
The thing is, your general reform voter could not care less about this. Okay, they really couldn't. And I think most of the voters in the UK really could not care less. They care about three things, right? They care about mass immigration, Islamism, and the capture of the institutions to identity politics. That's what they care about. All of our problems stem from those things. I keep saying this, but it's a kind of mantra. It needs to be said. Whoever Nigel Farage deals with perfectly within the bounds of the law, as far as I'm concerned, I don't care. I just want things to change, Alex, and I want the country to move on. I want us to focus, sorry, just to make the point, I want us to focus on the things that count, which ultimately result in Safeguarding. That's a key thing. Safeguarding for women and children. Okay. Economic prosperity and a sense of fairness for all. Those are the key things. So let's just get moving towards those and forget all this nonsense.
I totally agree, but the problem is we've had this now for almost 2 decades. The plotting, the scandals, the leaks to newspapers. I know who's behind it, and I'm fed up with them. The public is fed up with this. Like you said, we want actual solutions, not political intrigue. Talking about the public are fed up with this, here we go. Apparently, Kemi Badenoch has come out and said that there are various Conservative defectors to reform who are begging to return and saying that there is no way back for them. This is what I'm talking about.
Yeah, this is my party versus your party. This is my little dung heap versus your little dung heap. You know, again, I come back to the same thing. No one cares about this. You know, speaking as an ex-Conservative voter, you know, I've been gaslighted by them for so long. They said they were going to do something. They didn't do it, and then they told me they'd done it. Okay, that's the experience of Conservative voters for the last 15, 20 years. It just feels as though we need something different. We need a vision forward. We need someone who is going to get things done. We need a party with at least a semblance of the right bunch of things, and if that happens, then no one is going to remember any of this stuff. And the more people like Kemi Badenoch, the more the party leaders say, well, this has happened and this has happened, the more people will just turn off from them. You know, if I were to give Kemi Badenoch some advice now, I would say just drop this like a hot brick and focus on policy and governance, because that's the only way you're going to move forward.
Talking about policy and governments, what are we supposed to be expecting from Andy Burnham? I mean, it's utterly ludicrous, it's farcical, it's an insult to democracy, it's offensive that we've got some random mayor who's now going to be our Prime Minister, who's talking about 10-year plans. We're getting all these leaks to the press, aren't we, that capital gains tax could go up. There could be a lower limit to the mansion tax. Homes over 1.5 million now potentially in line to pay a surcharge. And, you know, he talks about renationalising the utilities. Where's the money going to come from that? Well, to me, I don't know if you agree with this, but I feel like we're living in real time through an actual communist coup, and instead the newspapers are pettifogging about whether Nigel Farage, before he was an MP, stayed at someone's house.
Well, this is it. This is what I've been saying for the last 10 minutes or so. I think as far as Andy Burnham goes, I mean, it's totally weird. It's like we've moved back to 1994 and he's the Britpop PM, you know, Britpop Andy, and all he's got for the world stage are Smith's lyrics, you know, and that T-shirt that he wears. So it's just really weird. In terms of policy, there simply isn't any. There's nothing there. It's the old paternalistic socialism stuff of tax and spend. And even Tony Blair now is saying, my God, I'm agreeing with Tony Blair.
Right, I did that earlier.
Yeah, okay, but, you know, the Tony Blair Institute for Global Change, there's a Bond villain organisation for you. But even Tony Blair is saying, look, you know, don't stifle entrepreneurship, don't stifle risk. You know, people need to take risks and make money, and they need to be rewarded for it. This is human nature. Okay, so first of all, you need to think through what you're doing. Secondly, you need to develop some kind of policy. And thirdly, you need to understand that if we don't repair the economy, if we don't have some kind of confidence back in society, this ship is going to sink. Okay, the problem we have with tax and spend, the problem we have with socialism, we saw it in the 1970s, which resulted in the winter of discontent, is that the people just go. If you're paying ridiculous amounts of tax, capital gains tax, that's tax on assets that you've sold. So presumably you've already paid tax one time round to gain the asset. So it's just taxation, taxation, taxation. These people just want to steal money with both hands at every opportunity. So if you've got anything to offer this country, why the hell should you stay? Because all they want to do is punish you. Now, I'm not saying anything that anybody doesn't know there. This is simple, elementary psychology, and yet they cannot seem to get their minds around it because they are blinded by envy. They want to punish people who are successful. Now, that is no recipe for a country that is moving forward.
How do you think things are going to play out over the next few years? What would be your predictions? Because here are mine, and they're pretty frightening. Burnham's going to come in. I don't think he will call a snap election. I don't. But if he did, I have a feeling, you know, they'll judge that based upon the level of bounce he has. What I do think he will do before the next general election is called is I think he will change the voting system to something akin to PR, saying, well, they do it in Scotland, they do it in Wales. We now live in multi-party politics. It's the right thing to do. And that will just be waved through. And I think that is how the left intend on getting in and staying in power, which is why Burnham's talking about a 10-year plan. I have a feeling, sadly, it could well work out. And soon enough, we're going to live in an impoverished nation with digital ID. They're going to try and force a by-election in Clacton to get rid of the one man who, for, you know, the last 3 decades, who's been saying and doing the same thing continuously, which is the stuff the general public have woken up and realised they want today. But the public are going to be denied it. The muscularity of the establishment are going to stand in the way of that. And I think we're doomed.
I think we are. We're doomed at least to... We're going to have a country, a society that bears no resemblance to the country we okay, that contract, that Burkean connection between the generations, the stuff that binds us together is going to go. And you only have to look at the levels of mass immigration, which aren't going to change. You only have to look at the institutions. You only have to look at the, what seem to be minor changes, which are actually massive changes. Okay, like the king not being defender of the faith anymore, things like that, which fundamentally change who and what we are. That's one thing. Okay, we're going to completely lose any trust in democracy for all of the reasons you just said. So if we don't have trust in democracy, we don't have any goodwill, and the country is just going to grind to a halt. At the moment, the way they try and make things work is by forcing us to live in this identitarian fantasy world where we don't deal with the truth. We just deal with kind of versions of the truth that fit the narrative. For me, if I'm being really, really honest, I've never been so I don't want to say this on a Sunday morning. When people are drinking coffee and kind of generally having a laugh, I've never been so depressed looking forward because I can't really see a future. Raymond is actually a Marxist. He was actually a Marxist cultural historian, said at the end of the 70s, they've stolen our future from us. He was actually talking about Margaret Thatcher and he was wrong. But I'm looking at the Labour Party now and I'm saying they've stolen our truth. They've stolen our truth, certainly, but they've stolen our future from us. And I think I'm right. So you just have to think about what's best for you and do you actually leave this place?
Oh, it just feels like we're basically being run into the ground by the Fabian Society. The march of global socialism continues. We occasionally get a moderate reprieve when we have a left-wing, right-wing government come in, but otherwise it's sort of, the clock resets, the digital ID, the supranational agencies, the international treaties, the open borders, the gaslighting, the silencing, the censorship, the brainwashing. Yeah. It's been going on for decades, and I just feel like, we should be so close now. We should be so close to being able to actually fight back against it. And what do we have? A split on the right. I mean, honest to God.
But I think that split on the right is receding. I don't think that many people take, Restore, for example. That's
no, I wasn't even talking about them. They're but anyway.
Oh yeah, but I think the thing is, in terms of what our society is, it genuinely is broken. But I think it's been broken for a very long time. The problem is, people don't see it, mainly because people are bringing up families and paying a mortgage and just trying to get by on an everyday basis. But now you really do have to look, as I was just waiting to come on there, you were talking about, there's another story about someone else has been raped, or there's another terrible murder in the street, and there's this or there's that. People do have to take notice of these things.
That's the thing. We become desensitized.
Think about who can possibly make a change and vote for them. The other thing is, with all of these general elections, you think, 40-odd people with the by-elections, 40-odd people, don't turn up, don't vote. You've got to do that. The first thing is participation, okay, and then take it from there. But we desperately need it. It is 5 to 12. We are on the last day. We really do need to take this seriously. And it's just so depressing that I have to say that. But most people are, at least the good thing is that most people are beginning to wake up to that now. Most people are looking at their houses, most people are looking at their communities and their families and saying, well, what happens next? How do we go forward with this? What kind of world, what kind of country are my children going to live in?
These things happen gradually and then all at once, and I think we sort of like it's been creeping up stealthily, this sort of like lurch to communism, driving the country over a cliff edge. And people are suddenly gone, oh no, and go, oh well, it's too late now. And that's what's depressing. Philip, thank you ever so much. The brilliant Philip Kisserly there. We're going to be taking a short break after that. We'd love to have a chat with some of you. So if you would like to be that person joining Samara and I on the airwaves, who wouldn't want to do that? Who wouldn't want that? 0344 499 1000. It's your normal network rate. You can also send me a WhatsApp to that number. You can send a text message to 87222. Write the word talk before you text. We're back just after this.
We've got some breaking news that has just come in. talkSPORT have announced a brand new partnership in a developing story. We hear they've created So Good Lager right in time for football's big summer. Just in, we're hearing that So Good Lager will be pouring pints across all O'Neill's pubs and some of the best sports pubs across the UK. With the big kickoff just around the corner, you can find out where to get your hands on a fresh pint of So Good Lager at talksport.com/lager.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hello and welcome back. It's time for calls and messages. It's my favourite bit of the show. Right, here we go. Stuart in Ramsden says, how can he seriously say Tories want to deal with immigration? No one's having that. Oh, this must be in relation to our interview of Kevin Hollinrake. Kemi is good, but the party is still full of clowns like him and Liberal MPs that will block her doing anything radical that's desperately needed. I'm not sure Kevin Hollinrake is a clown. I quite like him.
Yeah, sensible.
Yeah, seem like a stand-up gentleman to me. Alex and Samara on the telly at the same time.
Hey.
Sunday made, says Nishan in Cape Town. There we go. Do you think Nishan's our #1 fan?
I think potentially, yeah.
Who's going to earn the money to pay the state's wages, Alex? The public sector wouldn't exist without the private sector, says Peter in Lancashire. This is the problem with communism and Marxism. You've got no one actually generating the money. And this is a brilliant message from Gary in Suffolk. I love a sort of numerical fact. Great show, Alex. Thank you very much. I have read that 250,000 civil servants ran the British Empire at its height, which was a third of the world.
Wowza.
Today, more than 500,000 civil servants don't run Britain very well. How crazy is that? We ran a third of the world with half the apparatchiks.
Oh, goodness me. And we constantly keep getting these reports that say, oh, most of them have been working from home. Some of them have been sort of just moving the mouse around, not doing much. I mean, the system is so bloated. And you're right, it's actually scary to have someone come in and say, actually, we need more bloat.
We need more bloat.
Yeah, we need more of this, whatever's going on, yeah.
Don't have enough state employees yet. We're going to have to grab Alex and Samara by their ankles, shake them upside down until the last coin comes out of their pocket so we can have someone sitting in a slanket. Oh, ridiculous. And of course, we've got to pay for the migrants, we've got to pay for the people with mental health who can't go to work because they've got mild anxiety. I mean, blimmin' heck, we're going to have to just be on air 24/7.
Yeah. Yeah, we're going to have our efficiency tested, that's for sure.
Just strap us into a system and we'll run around like little hamsters and make sure that, everyone else can be looked after. Let's speak now to Elliot, who's in Hertfordshire. Good morning, Elliot.
Oh, hi, Alex. The situation here is truly appalling. It is my view and the people I speak to, something you did touch on, that the country is completely ungovernable. It doesn't actually matter who comes in at the moment. This is the most terrible thing. In the old days, you probably are too young, I remember the Heath days when it was who run the country, the unions. Well, the people running the country now, unfortunately, are the woke and elitist brigade who run the universities. They're running the BMA, they're running the legal system, they are certainly running the civil service and the universities and the schools teaching our children this rubbish. So the point I'm making very simply is it doesn't matter who's in power. It's going to take at least another 25 years to get this country back to where it was potentially. And the real opposition in this country is obviously the electorate, Alex, people who just can't bear this revolting mob who are in power, who actually hate you and I and hate this country. But more importantly, as we witness from Starmer and his idiotic way of governing or not governing, it is his backbenchers who are the opposition. They are the people who want to ruin this country. Why do they want to ruin it, Alex? Because they loathe the history, they loathe our heritage, they loathe everything about it. I've had family who have fought for this country, and I can hear them screaming from their graves. Yeah. It's a total disgrace. But and in my view, and in my, so just to finish, if I may, in my view, all these people, whether it's Starmer, whether it was the Blair years, and I'm sorry to say this, even aspects of the royal family, the fabric of our nation has been betrayed. It has been completely betrayed.
So this is the thing. Donald Trump used his 4th of July speech yesterday to repeat something he said quite recently, which is, we're going to kill off communism. It's a cancer. It needs to be cut out. We spent the last century spending trillions of dollars in the West fighting communism. You would think by 2026 it would be done and dusted, that we'd be an assertive, prosperous, peaceful, progressed nation. Instead, I feel like we've turned back the clock. The Cold War never ended, and we now actually are run by the communists. Like you said, it's infiltrated our campuses, it's infiltrated our schools. Everybody in positions of authority, everybody in a public-facing position has had to do the sort of communist brainwashing tests, you know, the critical race theory analysis, the unconscious bias training. You're right, it is going to take a whole new generation who are not even born yet to be able to save this nation, because unfortunately so many people of my age have been drinking the Kool-Aid. They've been brainwashed. They've been corralled into thinking the way that they think, and our system is just so permeated by this stuff. It is so insidious, and I don't know how we flush it out, because the thing is, it's the system itself that is going to prevent something like a reform government or a right-wing Conservative government, and I just don't know what stands in store if we don't get this. You know, we are at the 11th hour. Elliot, thank you ever so much for your exceptional call. Right, we are going to be taking a short break, but if you want to join the programme and chat to Samara and I, the number is 0344 499 1000. 8722 is the number to send a text. Write the word talk before you type out your message. You can also send a WhatsApp on 0344 499 1000. Back after this.
I swear by Almighty God that I will be faithful and bear true allegiance to His Majesty King Charles, his heirs and successors, according to law. So help me God.
It's happened before, but it is nonetheless still rather extraordinary that somebody who was only elected or officially sworn in as an MP less than 24 hours ago, in 3 weeks' time, is going to be running the country.
Yes, I think it is rather extraordinary. I think the issue isn't whether someone like that should automatically have to hold a general election. If Andy Burnham wants to introduce major changes to our constitution, he's talked about overhauling the House of Lords. He's also talked about overhauling our electoral system, bringing in some form of PR. I think if he wants to do any of those things, he needs a mandate from the public to do them. To try and do them without calling an election, I think, would be a constitutional outrage.
I've got an interesting tweet. There's always a tweet, Julia.
Yep.
If I can just read this out to you from Andy Burnham 3 years ago. We need to start demanding a general election at the end of this Tory leadership election. Well, well, well. That was Andy Burnham actually 4 years ago in 2022. So we're saying stick by your word, be consistent, Andy, and when you're Prime Minister, call a general election.
Look, the battle is really on, though, for number 11. Who's going to be the Chancellor? Ed Miliband, don't forget, has played an integral key role in this coup, and it is a coup because no one apart from 25,000 good people in Makerfield have voted for this guy. Yeah. So he's played a pretty integral role in undermining Keir Starmer and Ed Miliband aren't really speaking. He's going to want a big reward. But, you know, he is, you know, probably the most left-wing person in the government, and he will spook the markets.
Lou Hay, I mean, the reality is, look, she served her time. You know, she was cast out of government. The reality is, as you said, she has been central to his campaign. She was central to his campaign in Makerfield. More broadly, she's been central to his campaign to enter Downing Street. He owes her, and she will definitely get a role. I'm not.
What do you say to the people that have texted me in their droves this morning? This is a really a corny sentence, but it's true. That lawbreakers can't be lawmakers, Dan?
Yeah, I mean, but the reality is she's going to get a job. So the answer is yes, they can.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. 2 hours. It's gone by so quickly, hasn't it, Samara?
I know, it's flown by.
Flown by. We should do this all the time.
Absolutely.
Can I just say, I feel like such a blessed woman right now because I get to hang out with my bestie and get paid for it.
Oh, yeah. No, it's a good time, and I'm so glad the audience is really involved. I think they've got some good ideas about what's going on with this country because it's woeful. It is woeful.
It is woeful. Let's talk about a couple of stories we haven't touched upon yet today. So here we go. There's been a huge security blunder as highly sensitive documents from the Army's largest garrison have been found dumped at a council tip. Royal Military Police are looking into how the restricted cache, which included soldiers' names and ranks, weapons storage details, guard shift patterns, finished up among a pile of waste 2.5 miles away. This is Catterick Garrison, home to 13,000 military personnel in North Yorkshire. This isn't just a little bit of, you know, we failed to shred the documents. Weapons storage details and guard shift patterns. Just there you go, on the landfill.
Yeah, I mean, come on. I mean, this is Britain's biggest security leak. It wasn't a hacker. It was the recycling bin. This is the sort of, you know what I mean? Like, we are our own worst enemy when it comes to this sort of thing. Russia, China, Iran, we're an open goal. We don't even have really a defence minister. We've got one that was placed there about 2 days ago. I just saw the Pride March that the
who's
army...
defence minister again?
Good question. It is... Oh, God,
yeah.
who is
it?
our current defence?
Oh, no, I've got Dan Jarvis.
Yeah, yes. Who apparently Starmer said has been doing an amazing job. Well, he's been
Where is he?
He's been 3 hours he's been in the job.
Also, can we put out a lost and found for Yvette Cooper?
Yeah.
Where have you gone?
Yes.
Where are you?
Well, it's not like there's anything crazy foreign going on right now or any sort of geopolitical
But the government keeps saying, we need to
crisis.
deport this horrible man back to Pakistan, the leader of the grooming gangs. This is atrocious. I'm like, Yvette, we give them £50 million in foreign aid every year. Perhaps get on an aeroplane to Islamabad and say to Mr. Asif Ali Zardari, listen, sunshine, that 50 million quid you're getting from us is going to end unless these monsters come back to your country. And we don't care what happens to them when they do.
That would be the simple solution, but it seems like that's just they want to get basically embroiled in all this paperwork. And to be fair, it is the 1973 convention that's holding this vile individual in the country. They could change that here. They don't even need to go to Islamabad.
Isn't it funny that the government's banged on for ages that we can't do that because of human rights legislation? You are a human rights lawyer. You are in charge of amending or reversing legislation in this country. You have a big majority in Parliament. What else do you need?
It was funny. It took all of 3 hours for him to change the laws that the pubs could stay open and make them stay open until 5 a.m. for the World Cup. But apparently he couldn't deport this actual chief master groomer, who is one of probably the worst people in Britain currently, and he's roaming the streets now. And I was actually reading an article yesterday that said that in 2023 his parole officers said that he is not safe to be around children.
Yes,
well, now he's roaming the streets
and said, I've done nothing wrong. It's perfectly okay to rape little girls. It's like, oh, great. Yeah, just go live back in Rochdale, why don't you? Have a great time.
He's not a reformed individual. He's someone that when he was sentenced, he shouted to the judge that he was a racist, and he took a clump of his chest hair and threw it on the ground. So this is someone who's now freely walking the streets. Yeah, when you read the details of the case, it's quite astonishing that Shabir Ahmed was even allowed early release.
It's ridiculous.
I know.
Oh, talking about people being released who might take clumps of their chest hair and call everyone a racist, a terrorist linked to the 7/7 bombings has been released from mental hospital.
Great.
Haroon Aswat was sentenced to 20 years in prison for his activities with Al-Qaeda. He was linked to the 7/7 bombings. He's been released from a secure mental health unit despite warnings that he's a major risk to public safety. A High Court judge ruled last year the 50-year-old can be released from a South East London mental hospital after completing treatment. Just...
What? So we're talking obviously about Haroon Aswat, who, he was a British citizen. He was born in Yorkshire. He was raised in West Yorkshire, and he was associated with Al-Qaeda and obviously that radical preacher Abu Hamza al-Masri, and he became very embroiled in all this stuff. He actually pled guilty in the US to conspiring to establish a training camp, and he was linked to the 7/7 bombings. He wasn't involved, so I think obviously we should make that distinction. But it reminds me of some of the systematic failure that happened around Valdo Calacane. Because this guy is a schizophrenic, I believe.
Yeah,
we know that
he's got schizoaffective disorder.
Yes.
Which means he's unpredictable and aggressive, and it's been warned that he might radicalise impressionable recruits. Get him out into society. Yeah.
Yes. I mean, time and time again, you've just had the government admit last week that Axel Ruder-Cabana, that whole absolutely egregious thing should actually never have happened. And if the systems were in place, like prevent checking on him 3 separate times, it actually could have been avoided, which is absolutely tragic, actually, to know that. And, of course, with Valdo Calacane, who was, again, that schizophrenic who was out on the street, murdered 3 people, how many different times does this have to happen in order for us not to say we shouldn't allow these people back onto the streets? It is putting the British public in danger.
But also, there's something else that isn't spoken about enough. I've got a good friend called Dan Bamawi, who used to be himself a relatively hardline Muslim, saw the light, became a Christian, is an apostate. He's now in hiding over in Canada, and he writes a lot about radicalised Muslim mentality. And he says what people don't understand is when men and women, but men especially, are brought up from the age of children being told, being groomed to have murderous intent, to essentially being radicalised. That stays with them for life. That is their mentality. They have been conditioned to think and operate in a certain way. They're never going to be safe for society. And he says the Western world doesn't get this. They're not understanding when it comes to radical Islam that it is basically, a mind disease, that you can't just suddenly, integrate somebody or reform somebody with that condition.
Well, yeah, I mean, I interviewed a convicted terrorist, Shahid Butt, who actually was running for council in Birmingham. Again, this is how we do, but this is how a lot of British society does believe that these people can be rehabbed. These individuals can be. Yes. The funniest thing was he put a really, really nice front on, and he was able to say the right things, and he was able to, say that he is sorry for conspiring to blow up a British embassy, and he feels bad about it, and all he wants to do is help the good people of Sparkhill. But then when it came to shaking my hand after the interview, that's when the truth came out really about him and how radical he still is, because he did not want to shake my hand. I'm a female, he's a Muslim male, and that's when I started to say, okay, this is all a very clever front that you're putting on, mate.
It's just why anyone even falls for it is a madness. Shall we switch our attention now to things stateside, because as Samara and I were at a party last night, which is why we're a little bit glassy-eyed, let's say. We went to a 4th of July celebration because, of course, America is 250 years old. Happy birthday to you, United States, and your independence. Let's speak now to Matthew Byers, a former White House official. Great to have you back on the show. Are you a bit bleary-eyed? Did you enjoy some celebrations last night?
I am, Alex. Thank you. But it was a dear diplomatic friend's birthday party. I'm in Syracuse in Sicily, and yeah, I did some 250th celebrating as well. So yeah, it's a glorious moment, I guess. But I don't know. I really value still our ties to the UK.
Oh, while you're in Syracuse in Sicily, a beautiful island, that one, you'll enjoy some buildings that are probably 4 times the age of your own country. I always think it's quite funny. My house is older than America. Anyway, let us talk about a couple of things. J.D. Vance has done a big interview with the Washington editor, Katie Balls, of the Times newspaper, talking about the state of affairs in the United Kingdom. How much of an eye has America got right now on what's going on in Britain, especially when it comes to the fact that we've got a new Prime Minister in waiting, about to be automatically anointed without any recourse to the public here. A guy's over there in the White House watching closely about what he might say and do and thinking about what the relationship might look like. Oh, we've lost Matthew.
No.
Oh.
That's Sicilian Wi-Fi, my goodness.
I know, Mafia Media. Yes. I do love Sicily. What a great island
it is. Oh, my God,
it's
yeah,
so nice.
Absolutely.
Not that I'm jealous right now.
From where I'd rather be. No, I love being in the studio and everything, but, Britain and heat and air conditioning is not existent.
So what I would love one day, if I could have a dream bid. Here you go, you're listening, Chris. No, he's not. Oh. Yeah, there you go. Come on, Chris, listen. If I could have a dream bid for this programme, I would really like to have Sarah Rogers. She's the Undersecretary, who is the one who's basically sitting there doing eyes-on of Europe, watching our descent into madness, monitoring things like imposition on freedom of speech, Islamisation, and all of this is being reported back to America. They are extremely keenly interested in what is going on in the United Kingdom.
Concerned, yes. Yeah.
Thus they should be. So they should be indeed. But I'd love to interview her and to get a take on, quite what Washington might be planning to do about it. Because at the moment, I think they've played relatively nice with Britain, because Trump is a huge Anglophile. His mother, of course, was Scottish. I think that they've been sort of quite patient with this current government.
Yeah.
I wonder if that patience is going to wear out. We've got Matthew back. Matthew, I'm glad we've managed to reconnect with you.
Me too.
We've got a brilliant undersecretary of yours, Sarah Rogers, who is monitoring everything going on in Europe, things like freedom of speech, Islamisation, so on and so forth. We are about to get a new Prime Minister without any sort of general election. We don't really know what his policies are going to be, because why should we in a democracy? But from what's being leaked to newspapers, they've definitely got a bit of a communist tint to them. And I noticed, actually, last night in Donald Trump's 4th of July speech, he again has repeated the fact that communism is a cancer and needs to be cut out. How worried are people in the White House, do you think, about what is going on in Britain?
Well, I think those comments by President Trump, as well as J.D. Vance's, which you were asking about when the local internet here was turned off for some reason, are like everything in the United States, primarily initially U.S. focused, right? So what President Trump is reacting to is a series of elections of Democratic Socialists, so-called, in various U.S. Elections in recent weeks. And so he's trying to label the Democratic Party as far left extremists. But that plays, of course, right into what's happening in the UK. And of course, J.D. Vance had that in mind when he was wading into the politics of the UK. And I think, you know, what's in the back of their minds, too, both Vance and the Undersecretary and Trump, is what you mentioned, Alex, that in the UK, Burnham is sort of being benighted or selected by party elites and the party as the successor of Keir Starmer. And we went through the same thing with Kamala Harris with the Democratic Party, where she didn't face a primary. She was just chosen by the elite of the Democratic Party, and she was a disastrous candidate.
But at least you actually had a presidential campaign and people could look at the choice between Kamala Harris and Donald Trump and make a decision. It went back to the voters. I mean, would you think that it would be unreasonable for the British people to demand a general election?
Seems to me that's what democracy's all about. Give the people a chance to select their ultimate leader, of course. And, you know, that's the Kamala Harris point. You're right. You're right that it led to, you know, a national election for president. But there's a very strong debate inside the Democratic Party that had they selected many other candidates, that candidate could or likely would have defeated Donald Trump. So the people, of course, they merit the chance to choose their national leader. Absolutely.
Now, talk to me about the sort of things that America enjoyed yesterday with the 4th of July celebrations, because this wasn't just an ordinary 4th of July, was it? This was 250 years, a quarter of a millennia of independence. Apparently, wasn't there sort of a record-breaking amount of fireworks or something in Washington, D.C.?
Yeah, that's what President Trump claims. The biggest fireworks ever on the planet, 850,000 shots of fireworks. I don't know how you keep track of that, but that sounded exciting. But the event was sort of heavy because the weather was so crazily hot and humid. A large crowd did turn out, but then there were dangerous, you know, lightning storms and thunderstorms. So after the security had cleared everybody in, hundreds of thousands of people, everyone had to leave and seek shelter and then be cleared back in again. Tens of thousands of people, hundreds of thousands of people. So that was, you know, that was slow and cumbersome, but still a lot of people stuck around. President Trump gave a speech late after 11 p.m., and then the fireworks came afterward. But there was also a state fair. So each individual U.S. state had a booth or, you know, a tent, and they were showing why they should come to your state, what they produce there, et cetera. So there was an attempt to kind of replicate good old down-home American culture there on the National Mall, but the weather made it difficult.
Do you know what? I think Trump is rather cursed by the weather, because I remember inauguration when it was sort of complete opposite. It was a bleak midwinter, and the whole thing had to be moved indoors with a much reduced guest list. He certainly isn't lucky when it comes to that. Now let's talk briefly about very serious issues. What is now going to be going on with this supposed Iranian peace deal? Because it seems to be spluttering, conking out, running on empty. I'm not sure anything that would be agreed anyway is worth the paper it's written on, because it's unclear to me who is actually in control of Iran right now. My suspicion is that we could see increased military action again. What do you think?
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right about it's unclear who really has ultimate power in Iran. I mean, on paper, it's the new supreme leader, the son of the previous one, who has not been seen or heard publicly since the war began. And it's, as a former diplomat and a diplomatic observer, in fact, I was in Bergenstock, Switzerland, observing the U.S.-Iran talks when Vice President Vance was there. But, you know, from a journalistic perspective, the IRGC, so the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, does not like this agreement. Many Iranians throughout the population, by Iran's public polling standards, whatever the hell that means, are against the agreement. That all sounds to me like Iran is trying to push for more concessions from the United States in this now second phase of the Memorandum of Understanding, which is negotiating agreements on Iran's nuclear program. I think the Iranian side the IRGC is going to try to drag out the talks, would welcome a chance to go back to military conflict with the U.S. because the IRGC, it's not concerned about the welfare of the Iranian people. It's concerned about its own well-being, and the use of military force is something that strengthens it.
Matthew, thank you ever so much, and happy belated birthday to America via you. Enjoy your time in beautiful Sicily. What do you think is going to happen in terms of the geopolitics in Iran? Anyway, it's just sort of pivoting all over the place today.
Yes, the IRGC, the one that just down the road from us right now, there are officials sat in the embassy that's still operating. I do not understand why Labour can't prescribe them as a terrorist organisation, which they are.
Right.
They haven't expelled the ambassador. I mean, when we've got this sort of soft touch towards Islamic extremism, there is a big issue, and it's showing others that it's accepted. And you're right, this is while America, the US, is in a massive negotiation process with them. It doesn't show that we're on the same page here in Britain. Look, what will happen? I'm not sure. I mean, the funeral was interesting. There was a lot of people there.
Oh, Ali Khamenei's funeral.
Yeah, Khamenei's funeral was very...
Ayatollah.
Yes, exactly. And, well, we wanted regime change. Regime change would be the ultimate sort of a triumph. And unfortunately, I don't have much faith in the son, who is pretty much dismembered and doesn't have any of his family members.
No legs, no eyes.
No legs, no eyes. We don't even know, you know, we haven't seen
Might
him.
not even be alive.
Yeah, exactly. Who's actually making the orders? It's a very, very messy one. I do think that Trump's ultimate vice and virtue is his impatience. He's impatient about things, and it gets things done. But in this situation, I don't think it's worked out quite how he wanted it to, and he's kind of moved on when the actual situation hasn't.
No, I agree. I think there will be a resumption of military strikes. I think that's the only way forward. You can't negotiate with a terrorist. Right, we're going to be taking a short break. When we come back, we'd like to speak to some of you on the phone, so don't be shy, don't be coy. Pick up the blower and put this number in, 03444 499 1000. It's your normal network rate. You can afford that, can't you? Basically free. Free therapy on a Sunday with Auntie Alex and Auntie Samara. 03444 499 1000 is also a number that you can send us a WhatsApp message or leave us a voice note on WhatsApp. 8722 if you'd rather send a text message. If you're going to do that, you have to write the word talk before you text. Put the kettle on or pour yourself a stiff one. Sun's over the yard arm somewhere in the world, and we'll see you just after this.
We've got some breaking news that has just come in. talkSPORT have announced a brand new partnership in a developing story. We hear they've created So Good Lager right in time for football's big summer. Just in, we're hearing that So Good Lager will be pouring pints across all O'Neill's pubs and some of the best sports pubs across the UK. With the big kickoff just around the corner, you can find out where to get your hands on a fresh pint of So Good Lager at talksport.com/lager.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hello, hello, hello. Shall we do some... You've got your earpiece sorted now.
Yes, I'm trying.
Do you know what? I don't know what it is about, you know, manufacturing of broadcast commodities, but there is no such thing as an earpiece for women. They make these blimmin', like, I call them elephant tampons. Get that in your ear. It's a nightmare. I've actually got a specially commissioned one for babies.
Yeah.
Like, genuinely.
You do. I remember when I was producing you and we had a bit of a kerfuffle with the earpiece, and that was nightmarish.
Oh, gosh.
Basically, something got stuck in Alex's ear, and I just can't even imagine what it'd be like.
I remember when the end of the earpiece came off in Kev's ear and it just lived in there for a week.
Yes,
and it's like, oh, well, never mind. And it's like, Kev, I think you really ought to get that removed.
It's such
your inner ear.
God.
Oh.
That's Kev behaviour, though.
Do you miss him?
Do I miss Kev?
Having produced him all those years.
I see him every day.
Oh.
Don't miss producing him. No, I'm joking.
Oh, we love you, Kev. Right, let's do some messages and take some calls. Alex and Samara. Pete in Southend on Sea here. All right, Pete. Military paperwork should go to paper and cardboard recycling, not for burial. Shouldn't it just be thrown into an incinerator, perhaps?
That would be a sensible idea.
Forget recycling it. Let's not be woke about this. Just burn the blooming stuff if it's got sensitive information. Good morning, Alex and Samara. Even if your aircon was set to -5 degrees, you'd still be the hottest place in the building. Well, the pair of you are hotter than the leftover Vindaloo that I'm tucking into at the moment. Phew!
God, I
Great
could do
show
with
as
some
always.
leftover
Says
Vindaloo.
Reg from Southampton. Why, thank you, Reg. Whoop. Alex Burnham will tax anything and everything he can, and I'll bet none of it will go on defence. Miliband won't give up on net zero unless he's removed from cabinets completely. Every penny raised will go on welfare for more immigrants. Anybody with a brain can see it. Yeah. Thank you, Makerfield. Exactly. Thank you, Makerfield. Like, oh, why? Right, let's speak now to Joan, who's in Sunderland. Good afternoon, Joan.
Hello to both of you.
Hello, lovely accent, Joan.
About Burnham, the man in black. I am absolutely sick of seeing that man. He looks as if he's just returned from walking the dog.
I think he looks like a high street hairdresser.
All right. And honestly, try as I might, I cannot picture that man on the international stage at all. He'll be a complete waste of time. As I say, I'm sick of all... Well, I'm waiting to see how many retreads he'll have back in his government. You know, the ones who's had selective amnesia, they've lost a phone, they can't remember whether they should pay £40,000 stamp duty or just small things.
What you
like
mean,
that.
brilliant, hard-hitting, cutting-edge genius women like Louise Haig and Angela Rayner. Can't wait to have them back.
Yes, and if we didn't know it, let's tell everybody once and for all, Burnham was Mayor of Manchester. Let's remember Manchester, because the rest of this country does not exist. He will do nothing about immigration. He will do nothing about net zero. He will do nothing about defence. All he wants is to split up the country so he'll have little mayors here and there with about 40 other people discussing whether they need sugar in their tea. And I'm fed up of these Conservatives who get on and they're on about reform and this, that and the other. I voted in my lifetime, I'm 86, for Labour, Conservative and, I must be mad, the Liberal Democrats. Now, the Conservatives had 14 years. They did nothing about immigration, they did nothing about net zero, and they hollowed out money for defence. So I'm sick of hearing about those. It's taken them 14 years, it's taken Labour 2. I'll give Burnham 1 because I can see from all of the waste of space, the sound bites, the running around in a black T-shirt and a wind cheater, boring. The headlines are going to be boring Burnham or Burnham is so boring. We're going to get that for months and months and months.
Yeah.
Nothing, no government, no important things that the people of this country want solving. It's going to be a waste of space just like Starmer.
Do you know what can I say? Well, let's give Joan a round of applause.
Amen.
That was a brilliant call. We love Joan. Thank you so much.
Absolutely.
I agreed with all of it. I'm just waiting for the inevitable headline at some point when Burnham comes in, doesn't cut the welfare bill, increases capital gains tax, and the economy goes into, you know, the final throes of its existence, that the Sun or someone will have crash and Burnham.
Yes, absolutely.
Waiting for it.
Well, working in the media, we also know this. We don't have a concerted effort, but the media likes to build people up just to bring them down. And I think that, as Farage said, he's in this honeymoon period at the moment that will be over as soon as he steps into number 10 and actually confronts the reality of what's going on in this country. And you're right, everyone said that he's an indecisive guy, and that's not exactly the best quality
The
for Prime
backbenchers
Minister.
have already given him a sort of pre-prime ministerial mauling, saying, whatever you do, don't touch welfare, don't touch the benefits. Do you know, I think it's about a year ago, the IMF warned Britain that it was too big to bail out, that we are really in such a precarious situation and we're too big to bail out. And what then happened was the Labour Party said, don't worry, we've got a Welfare Act that we're going to bring into Parliament. It's going to massively reduce our expenditure, and it will, you know, put our economy back on an even keel. Then what happened? The backbenchers not only blocked the Welfare Act, but also Rachel Reeves came in and said, oh, let's actually do even more welfare. Let's lift the two-child benefit cap. So it's gone in completely the opposite direction to what the IMF suggested we should do. And I think this is why they've brought in Gordon Brown, because after the 2008 crisis, you know, everyone sort of lauded him as this great economist. Essentially, Gordon Brown is going to be the IMF whisperer. I think his job, you know, while there's ultra-communism being enforced upon us without democracy, his job is going to be just to try and settle the markets, to sort of be the whisperer of all of the, you know, Moody's credit ratings agency and all the rest of it.
True, but I feel like we won't need a whisperer at one point. We'll need a shouter, because we'll need to actually get everything under control. I don't know how much Gordon Brown will actually be able to influence. And, you know, everyone does bring it up, but he sold off all our gold reserves, which is pretty much unforgivable.
Yeah, thanks, Gordon.
Yeah, thanks, Gordon. So, yeah, I think you're totally right, though, about the placement of him and trying to keep everyone at bay, because we know that's what happened with Liz Truss. She didn't have a whisperer on her side.
She didn't have a whisperer on her side. But what is mad is, you know, we know... we know that Andy Burnham's going to become Prime Minister, randomly, just like that, boom. Who's the Chancellor going to be? Because the understanding is, if it is Ed Miliband, the markets are going to go absolutely postal.
I doubt it'll be Ed Miliband. I know everyone's saying that it will. I just don't think that that's going to happen. I actually think that Burnham knows that the markets will absolutely spin out if Miliband's put in control. I also think Miliband's really enjoying actively destroying our energy industry with his net zero zealotry. So I think he's actually quite enjoying his posting. I don't think he'll want to leave. I know that there were, a couple months ago, there were talks about him potentially leaving his position as Energy Secretary, and he was like, you're going to have to drag me out of this. He loves it there. He loves destroying things.
I reckon he'd like
Great
to be
British
Chancellor.
Energy?
Yeah, Great British Energy, £8 billion budget and a man called Henrik or something
Yeah,
doing
pretty
Lord
much.
knows what. I think he's managed to stick some solar panels on a hospital.
That's what, yeah, great. That's what he wants to do. But I think maybe potentially Wes Streeting. And I actually think that'd be probably a good idea. I mean, I don't know. Who's your pick? Who'd you put your money on?
No, I still think it could be Miliband, because I think Miliband has hustled this whole thing from the beginning.
That's also
I think
true.
he's been the puppet master, and I think he wants a big office of state. But there's been rumours other Miliband might be brought back in as foreign secretary. Oh, yeah, a man who's not even been in the country for 13 years. Let's just give up on elections and being elected. I mean, what does it matter anyway? You don't want to listen to us.
Banana Republic.
So, it is just ridiculous. Righto, let us take a short break, because on the other side of it, we're joined by one of the channel's favourites, Mr. Steve N. Allen, who's going to cheer us up with all the doom and the gloom. Then after that, we're going to be getting a sports roundup. But in the meantime, if you do want to get in touch with your thoughts on anything we're talking about, WhatsApp us 0344 499 1000 or send us a text on 87222. Right, talk before you text. We're back after this.
across the UK. On DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hello, welcome back, and welcome to the show. The wonderful, the glorious, the inimitable, the wise, the wickedly funny wit that is Steve N. Allen. Hi, Steve.
For a minute there, I was fairly sure you weren't talking about me, so I didn't even know if my turn to come on with an intro like that. Felt too much. Thank you.
Oh, but you are. We love you. Now, let's talk about some of the chewiest headlines today. Now, the Times have gone big. They've gone big on Nigel Farage. Headline, secretly funded by convicted criminal. I mean, I don't think it's that much of a secret for anyone who's been in politics. George Cottrell has been by his side for a long time. George Cottrell also doesn't particularly hide the fact that he was imprisoned for money laundering. In fact, he wrote a book, How to Launder Money, and had its launch at Raffles. But they seem to think that because George Cottrell apparently paid for Nigel Farage to have security, private security, when he was a private citizen working at GB News, paid for him to have a social media team, look after his YouTube and all the rest of it, that this is somehow a terrible scandal. I don't really know where I sit with this. I mean, part of me doesn't care. Part of me thinks it's a bit sloppy and maverick by Reform not to be across all this stuff, knowing they were going to throw lawfare at him. It was inevitable. Where do you stand on this?
It's a blood in the water thing, isn't it? That we wouldn't be paying attention to this if it weren't for the 5 million story that happened a while ago. It's still ongoing. And that's the story that's got some actual questions to it. The rest of it since has just been that thing that journalists do when there's you'll notice if there's a helicopter crash the next 3 weeks, there'll be smaller stories about helicopters not doing well. And you think, why is that? That's just how journalism works, isn't it? So now the idea of Nigel Farage's money is the hot topic and everyone's looking into it. Like the whole money he was earning by plugging gold bullion or whatever it is. Look, we've all flogged some stuff. That's not the big story. The big story is a £5 million quote marks gift, which even Julie Hartley-Brewer, I'm sure, and their friends gave him a thorough grilling over it because there are some good questions to be asked about that. These ones are just a bit lower grade, aren't they? That I'm not really sure there's that much to be dug up through here. But you're right, it is sloppy. I mean, they should have seen this coming. Declare, if everything's above board, declare, because that way no one can throw anything at you. And maybe, if you've got someone who's paying some good money to make you look good online, one of the things to not do online is to be so associated with someone who's asking Trump for a pardon. You're right, they could have seen this coming, they could have got ahead of it, and that would have made the story go away.
I mean, the thing is, I don't really think that it's bothering voters too much, but I think that this is essentially procedural. I put this down to lawfare, and I think that the end goal from the people behind this is to try and force a by-election in Clacton in the hope that he might lose it.
Well, you think so? Because I was thinking it's just about vibes. It's trying to make Nigel Farage not seem like he's one of us. If you can keep associating him with the rich elite, you break his exact power. The strongest thing he's got going for him is that in a world where it felt like no politician had any interest in people, that we were nothing other than just a hurdle to get over, to get into power, to do whatever you wanted anyway, he was framing it that we were the important people. And now if you can make him look like he spends all of his time getting stuff paid for by millionaires, then that starts to break that magic. So I thought it was more just a bad PR campaign they were trying to do.
Oh, I think probably a bit of both, to be honest. Now, what do you make of this story? Kemi Badenoch has come out and said that the Tories that have defected to Reform cannot return, following reports that apparently some of those who have gone over to the turquoise Pantone have privately reached out to the Tories about returning. Do you believe this, or do you think this is a play?
Well, yeah, look, for a second I thought you called it the turquoise Panto, which is maybe one way of looking at it.
Pantone. I quite like turquoise Panto. That's what it feels like. You look like you're in a turquoise Panto, can I just say?
Oh, no, I'm not. But yeah, I know what you mean. It looks like this is other. They just love a bit of scheming and manoeuvring, don't they? Let's try and see if we can make it. Basically, they watch House of Cards and they think that's how you should be a politician. It comes across as that. I hope that the drawbridges are fully up now. We don't need any more of this. You know, it's not about them, is it? It feels very much kind of, oh, imagine I wish to be pursued by a party and they're making noises. We're having meetings. Oh, you work for us. Do it that way round.
Why do they? They're just so schemy. They can't help themselves. Scheming is all they did for the 15 years they were in government instead of running the country. Now they're scheming again still, scheming all over reform, scheming on themselves. Stop scheming. The voters don't like it. This is why you lost the last election. No one voted for Labour. They voted you lot out because all you did was scheme. Oh, it drives me mad. Now, let's talk about Andy Burnham, actually. How are you enjoying the communist coup we're living through?
Isn't it weird? Yeah. I mean, look, we need a general election, but I do get really annoyed by the fact that firstly, everyone who's ever had this topic about a swap of leader should always be saying the same thing every single time. And you get all of those tweets by Labour people who are going like, we need a general election. You can't have a Liz Truss. You can't have a Rishi Sunak. If you swap leader, we need a general election. Are now all suddenly going really quiet. The polls are saying, was it 20% of Labour supporters want there to be a general election? Get poop or get off the pot. Pick a side on this. We either always have them or we never have them. That's the debate to have. If you change your mind based on bias, I'm not interested.
At least with the blimmin' fiasco and furore that was musical chairs a la the Conservative Party, they had leadership elections. At least there was this sense that someone somewhere was listening to their policies and voting the Conservative membership alone. But this is just, this is an auto-appointment. I think it's utterly terrifying. What scares me the most is the fact that British people are just like, yeah, whatever. World Cup's on. Like, do we not care? Do we not care there's a communist coup taking place? Talking about the World Cup, are you watching it tonight? Are you staying awake for it?
I don't think I will be. I mean, maybe I would have stayed up if it weren't for the fact that I can guarantee you early tomorrow morning I'm being woken up by two kids who are not interested in the football, a little 2-year-old and a 4-year-old. If there were any way to sedate those to have a lie-in, I'd be doing that anyway. So I don't think I could afford to stay up because they're going to, Dad, shout across the house. I've got to get up early.
Well, apparently we're about to bask in a 34 degrees heat wave again, and there's going to be a fresh hosepipe ban. All these poor middle-class things we've got to deal with.
Yeah, although, I mean, it is ridiculous, though. We're a modern nation who can't have 3 days' worth of heat without suddenly not having enough water. Because we've got enough water. It's just all of it was tilled away by the water companies halfway through the middle of winter because they didn't fix any leaks. And we get enough rain so that we don't have to starve, and yet they think it's easier, as if somehow the problem is some retiree doing their garden. No, water companies, pull your flipping finger out or put it in if that's what stops the leaks. It's really annoying. But also, we should have aircon. Like, the solution's there. If we're going to get hot weather, if you believe that climate's going in that direction, the solution is staring us in the face. We all need to be allowed to get better aircon. And yet that seems to be some politicised issue now where we're not allowed to use the technology that solves a problem. How is that a step forward?
Yeah, I sort of missed that debate, Samara. Like, I sort of read one day, so someone had put on X something like, aircon is the new whatever it is, the new controversial. I sort of missed that boat. What was that all about?
Yeah, about people needing basically.
Yeah, is there some sort of? I knew there was a run on Lidl or something. The middle of Lidl had some sort of aircon units, and people have gone absolutely crazy for it. But
oh no, I thought you were talking about how they were basically dragging pensioners out of their houses who didn't have approval to use air conditioning because of that Conservative government policy that was put in a couple.
See, I missed this story.
Yeah, so essentially, the Conservatives made it so you have to have a permit in order to have an air conditioning unit in your house.
Maybe
that's just crazy. And they were going around knocking on doors, even just a couple of days ago, trying to fine people for not having a permit. It's insane. As an Australian, I'm like, what? What are you talking about?
Instead of licence to kill, it's licence to cool.
Very good.
Hey, I know. I'm amazing. I managed to get that joke out today. I'm a bit sort of brain dead at the moment. Steve, my darling, enjoy whatever it is you're up to for the rest of the weekend. Bask in the glory of this gorgeous sunshine. And we'll catch up very, very soon. Let's do some messages now. Petition. The removal or death of a PM should trigger a general election. We call on the government to introduce legislation which would mandate a general election if a Prime Minister is removed or resigns from post or if the Prime Minister dies. And so was given a link to the petitions page in Parliament. I would sign that.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a little bit of it. Well, look, the Westminster system, it is, we never go and vote for one person on the ballot. You're never going and voting for Keir Starmer. We're not like America in that way.
Yeah.
It is the leader of the party that ends up leading the country.
But I think that, yeah, without sort of having to sort of dip into changing the constitution, having, a presidential system, I do actually think if, because the thing is, I was saying this to Mark Littlewood yesterday, we have party democracy, but we are running everything like presidential campaigns.
Yeah.
Kemi, Zach,
Yes.
Andy.
Yes.
If we're going to play the game of changing Prime Minister because Andy Burnham might be more popular than Keir Starmer and he's going to do things differently, then that needs to go back to the public. I think that's a petition well worth signing without having to sort of, boot out the royal family, become a Republican, start having presidential elections, because that would be grotesque. I do think that it's not unreasonable to suggest that if the person running the government, calling the shots changes, that we, the people, should get to decide whether we want that to happen.
Absolutely. I also feel like all this legislation was drafted way before politicians learned the art of lying, and now they just lie through their teeth when they're getting into power. The mandates never really get fulfilled, and I think that is also the problem. So yes, the people should have the choice to say, no, you haven't been doing what you said that you were doing, and we demand a general election now. I think that's the situation we're in currently. It just hasn't been like that in the past. So
it all went wrong during Brexit. This is where this sort of terrible behaviour first started happening. We voted in that referendum, and a load of people in Westminster decided they didn't want to agree with it. They sort of were running around to law firms trying to use the Supreme Court to stop this, overturn that. We need another referendum. It was disgusting. And as soon as that awful, disgusting, anti-democratic behaviour took hold during Brexit, it has flourished. It always does. One poisoned apple will soon infest the entire cart. Carol in Clacton says, I live in Clacton and I don't care how much money or how many properties or what Nigel has for breakfast.
There you go. I mean, he won such a stonking majority in Clacton. I think it was like 9,000 votes, if I remember correctly. I mean, it was massive. So the fact that he might lose that seat, I don't know if he would. I think they're pretty happy with him down there. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, viewers and listeners. But yeah, I agree with you. It does seem like a concerted effort to trigger a by-election, though, and that is concerning.
Alex Samara, forgive me, but you went to a celebration for the USA. Fine, hardly patriotic, though. We lost, says Steve. I'm just patriotic on behalf of America. Doing good things. I love that Trump. Can we have him?
Yeah, exactly. And also, the Americans are the ones that are patriotic for us right now.
I know.
Not the other way around. So, yeah, I think we should all just hold hands and kumbaya on this one.
Stephen Portishead has sent a message that I don't understand, but we'll figure it out during the break.
Okay.
Which is, if Burnham becomes PM, what's the new song going to be? What does he mean by the new song?
Oh, it's going to be probably something by the Smiths or like his campaign song.
I don't know. What new song?
I don't know. Well, he's probably going to steal Blair's "Things Can Only Get Better" or something like that.
Yeah.
You remember that campaign?
That was
really
actually
good.
a cracking song, to be fair. I love that song.
Yeah.
Everyone loves that song. Right, we're going to be taking a short break. On the other side, we're going to be catching up with TalkSport reporter Tom Clayton for all the latest. It's such a busy sporting weekend. So much going on. You've got Wimbledon, you've got the British Grand Prix, you've got the World Cup tonight. Lots to talk about. That is coming up after this.
We've got some breaking news that has just come in. talkSPORT have announced a brand new partnership in a developing story. We hear they've created So Good Lager right in time for football's big summer. Just in, we're hearing that So Good Lager will be pouring pints across all O'Neill's pubs and some of the best sports pubs across the UK. With the big kickoff just around the corner, you can find out where to get your hands on a fresh pint of So Good Lager at talksport.com/lager.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hello, welcome back to the show. Shall we wrap up on some sport? Because so much is going on this weekend, and we're joined by the marvellous Tom Clayton. How you doing, Tom?
Alex, I'm good. How are you?
I am good. I bet you're one of the most overworked men in Britain right now. Now, can we start off on my specialist subject? Because you know me, I know nothing about football, but I do know a thing or two about Formula One, and it is the British Grand Prix. And you know what? I have been deprived because I've been at work, so I've missed the sprint race, I've missed the qualifying. What's going on?
Well, you've missed a blooming good weekend of sport, I can tell you that, especially when it comes to the British Grand Prix. I mean, first of all, yesterday in the sprint race, that was brilliant entertainment throughout. It was a really good battle up front between this young upstart Italian, Kimi Antonelli, and Lewis Hamilton, who's back on form this year with Ferrari in a car that actually works for him. And then there was a battle between about 6 cars behind them, between the Red Bulls, the other Ferrari, the other Mercedes, and the McLarens. And it's been great to watch. It was really good action. And then yesterday in qualifying, we actually saw all of the drivers kind of almost forming up 2 by 2, but there are pods between each of them. So there's like 2 cars who are as fast as each other, and then there's another 2 cars and another 2 cars, and it's really interesting, the dynamic of how this weekend and this season's panned out, to be honest, because by far and away Mercedes have the best car, but at the same time, Ferrari are closest to them in terms of challenging them. And then you've got the battle between Red Bull and McLaren, and they're kind of all close together. So you assume that Mercedes are going to get to the front and win every race. But Lewis Hamilton's proved the exception to that rule this year.
Who's on pole? How's the grid stacked up?
So the grid is really interesting. In Silverstone, you normally get like a 2 by 2 formation.
The Noah's Ark.
Fast, yeah. But fortunately this year we've got a nice mix. So we've got Kimi Antonelli, who's the championship leader, this upstart Italian 19-year-old on pole position, who's 43 points clear of the championship. Then you've got Charles Leclerc in the first Ferrari. Then you've got Lewis Hamilton in the second Ferrari. And then you've got George Russell in the Mercedes. What's really interesting is Max Verstappen, who's been having something of a resurgence over the last couple of weeks, he's starting down in 7th place. He had a bad day yesterday, so he's going to be hoping to recover. He's actually been out-qualified by his teammate, Isaac Hadjar, who's starting to look more comfortable in the senior Red Bull team. So I'm really glad that it's working out well for him. I'm really glad that, you know, he's starting to stick it to Max Verstappen, because I think there's a few British people who'd like to stick it to Max Verstappen.
I've heard there's gossip that there could be like an Antonelli Verstappen swap shop a bit later on in the season. I don't know if that's true, but would certainly spice things up a bit. But looking forward to it today. Silverstone never disappoints. One of the fastest circuits, one of the best circuits. There's always drama. That's what I'm going to do when I come off there. I'm going to go and enjoy some good, hard-hitting motorsport. Now, I'm also then going to get myself back to Gloucestershire, go to my local pub, which I assume will be open, to watch the World Cup tonight. What can we expect in this draw against Mexico?
Well, unfortunately, we can't expect a 6 o'clock start like we were hoping, because they decided in the end, FIFA, they bowed to the pressure of the FA and the Mexican FA to keep the start time at 1 o'clock tomorrow morning. So I'm looking forward to having a bleary-eyed train journey back down to London tomorrow lunchtime. But I think it's going to be really interesting. I mean, first of all, the first game that should be on our radars, actually, is at 9 o'clock this evening between Brazil and Norway. That's actually, I know, OK, it doesn't sound like the most box office fixture on paper, but if you look at these two teams, if you look at some of the players who are in there, and one thing, there was a really good narrative this year of the what we call the humble narrative in the Premier League between Erling Haaland and Gabriel, the Norwegian forward who's taking the world by storm, and then Gabriel, who's the best defender in the world, and he's Brazilian. They go up against each other this evening, and that's going to be a great watch. And then, of course, it is the big game, 1 o'clock in the morning. We'll see if England have been taking their special tablets that the FA's prescribed them and if they're coping with the altitude. And yeah, we'll see how they do. I mean, a lot of people are saying that this is going to be a really tough game, really difficult game, but Mexico, they have this remarkable record at the Azteca. They've only lost, I think, 2 of the last 40 matches at the Azteca, but they've been playing teams who are ranked sort of in and around the 50, 60, 70 mark in the world rankings. So it's going to be really interesting to see how that changes when one of the big boys comes to town. How will England cope with the pressure? Because there was a game in qualifying where they had to play in Serbia, and everyone was like, oh, the intimidation factor is going to be crazy there. And they won 4-0. You know, so England are well adept, though. You know, these guys play week in, week out in the most pressurised environments. I think the Azteca, while some of the smaller nations might have crumbled, I think England are really well placed to go into this game and be comfortable and, you know, deal with the atmosphere. The question is, can they do something they've not done all tournament and play well?
That's a big question indeed. I think those people who'll be staying up to the wee small hours in the morning will be so disappointed if it ends in a loss. Now let's talk about Wimbledon, because that is also going on. I'm afraid I'm not up to date with anything going on at Wimbledon, so you're just going to have to get us all clued up.
Oh, that's absolutely fine. And the big headline at the moment is the British wildcard, Arthur Ferry, who's been playing out of his skin. He came into the draw with a sort of last-minute chance through this wildcard situation. He's been going through in tough and tight games against very good players. And now he finds himself in the 4th round against a real old campaigner in a sort of wily, sort of brilliant player in Marin Cilic, who I remember, 10, 15 years ago, he was having battles with Andy Murray at his pomp, and he was causing him problems then. So Cilic is a really difficult opponent in the 4th round for Ferry, and if he wins, he goes on to play either Flavio Cobolli or Alex de Minaur, who are the 6th and 9th seeds. So he's got a really tough run. Yannick Sinner, he's been going very well, the world number 1. No Carlos Alcaraz, of course, at this tournament, so it's kind of written in the stars that, well, if Alcaraz isn't there, then Sinner will probably go on to win. But first round, he was taken to 5 sets. He's not looked comfortable in all his games, so the game is there to be had. Novak Djokovic is still going. He's the 7th seed now, but he's been playing really well. So I think actually it's really wide open, this Wimbledon tournament. I still think Yannick Sinner is the favourite, and we'll find out this time in a week's time, of course, when the men's final is. But unfortunately, I can't wait for the second half of the week. I just want to see more of Arthur Ferry. I think he's been a great ambassador. He's been great to watch. And, yeah, long live the Brits at Wimbledon, eh?
Yeah, I might have to tune in for once in my life. I don't mind a bit of tennis, actually, but I haven't watched it for years. Tom, thank you very much. Always so knowledgeable. Knows everything. He's like Sportopedia, is our Tom Clayton.
Yeah, I know. I feel totally educated now going into that. I didn't know about Brazil and Norway and everything like that.
Are you a sports fan?
I like looking at the football players.
With their pony tails and their little chicken legs.
Yes, there's something about it. No, I'm also a big tennis fan, so it's good to hear about all that. Yeah, but Alcaraz. So Alcaraz is not playing. I had no idea.
And we spend all our time talking blooming politics. We miss all the fun stuff. Plus, can we learn to schedule things and space it out a bit? It's like it gets to July and Britain's like, let's do all the sports matches on the same day. It's like, come on, that's like having, Christmas, birthday, New Year all at the same time, which I also have. Yeah. But just pace yourselves.
Yeah.
Can't we just sort of drip feed the joy throughout the year?
Tom's in heaven. He's not complaining. Tom's living his best life. He seems to have not slept in many, many days, but he's on top of it all.
Do you know what really gets my goat? Yeah. I've had 3 people message me saying they're at Silverstone. I'm like, can you not do that? Everyone knows I'm a Formula 1 obsessive. Don't brag that you're there, especially when you don't even like the sport.
No, I know. Where's your ticket?
Cruel. Yeah. Where's my ticket?
I feel like I could see you doing reporting from the track.
Oh, I keep trying to tell that place. I'm like, do you have a Formula 1 correspondent at talkSport? Well, I'll do it. I'll go.
You could be like Kim Kardashian and Lewis Hamilton. This is really not for our audience, but you know how they're dating and it's a whole thing. And
what? Who am I supposed to be dating?
I don't know.
Like F1 driver?
Yeah, why not?
Oh, yeah, they're all a bit too young for me, but yeah.
Maybe one of the mechanics on the team, or I don't know.
What a weird conversation.
Yeah, sorry.
Let's just spend the next 2.5 minutes discussing my non-existent love life.
No. I think there's a lot of females that have got involved in the sport because they find the players and everything. With that Netflix Drive to Survive.
I was into that like age of 14. Everyone else had pictures of Take That on their wall. I had Jacques Villeneuve.
Yeah, exactly. You're a real one.
I'm a real one. I've been onto it for a long time. Right, let's do some messages before we wrap up. Betty says, Alex, any voter can demand recall of their MP if enough are recalled. Majority majority and government falls. Issue is nobody actually takes their government seriously and participates. So we get professional clowns as MPs and councillors. I don't know what the rules are around parliamentary recall. Is it just as simple that you can also... I think there has to be some offence that triggers it. I don't think it's just like you can go, oh, I want a recall now.
Yeah, no, yeah, you absolutely... I think it does need to be for something
because
quite serious.
if that was the case, the left would have been gaming that system for ages, trying to force by-elections everywhere, wouldn't they? We're going to get an early elections, and as things stand, reform will be shafted. Timing. Brown will tell Burnham not to bottle it like he did.
Ooh.
Hi, Alex and Samara. A grooming gang leader and a terrorist released. Can the government not be prosecuted for placing the public in danger, especially young girls? I've said this for a long time, actually. I think that, you know, there should be a legal case against, you know, from some of these people who have been attacked by asylum seekers, the family of the poor woman that was murdered. The government needs to be held to task because they're not doing the fundamental first duty of government, which is to protect the country and protect its citizens.